Welcome to the Sharpcast, where we will talk about puppies and all things nice.
Get that shit out of here, motherfucker! Sharpcast, make your brain blast! Political conversation don't let you think! Yes, Sharpcast, it'll make your brain blast! Come and sit down and have a civil debate!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Shibimble Limble Dimble, Sharpcast place. Welcome to what is a thing that happened. A thing.
It's a thing that happened.
A thing that a lot of us are still trying to wrap our heads around.
I'm trying to wrap my head around a lot of other things, but that's a
Right.
different story.
Like we're talking commuted death penalties that were racially disproportionate. We're talking lots and lots of people signing a document to give over to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS just like, fuck no!
Yeah, trying to disenfranchise every possible voter because they voted for Biden. They think this is
Yeah,
steal.
it's unfortunate.
In before everybody says SCOTUS was Democrat rigged or some shit. I don't
Well, they're already saying that, so...
Okay, so we're too late. Remember, the SCOTUS you wanted the president to appoint, predominantly Republican, is too blue for you.
Yeah, well, they're not... remember, we have a saying around here, everything Trump touches dies, because nothing's ever good enough for Don, no one's ever loyal enough, and eventually it all falls down. So,
Right.
Anyway.
His next target is going to be America now because we're about to fucking... This place is
He
about to
will
be
not
burned to the
touch
ground.
me.
Well, very well, but
yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. As usual, we got a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. So, the top story for today we have to get into is So, at the time of this recording, it is currently December 13th. Tomorrow, December 14th, Monday, is the day the Electoral College will officially vote. Now, another deadline that's passed while we've been out is the Safe Harbor deadline, which was December 8th. The Safe Harbor deadline is the day that any and all disputes about the election, legitimately or otherwise, are supposed to be settled. That's when it's like, okay, whatever arguments you have about how the votes turned out or whether you won or not, you got to settle it by this day so the electors can meet and cast their votes and we can officially pick the president. After this, the results will go to the House of Representatives for them to certify on January 6th, and the Senate will do likewise, and that's really the end of the formal electoral process.
Also, we'd never had faithless electors before, but faithless electors have been made illegal, so...
Well, okay, so we have had faithless electors, but never on a big scale. We've talked about this on the show before. Faithless electors, for those that need a reminder, are electors that do not cast their vote per the popular vote. See, the way it works is that in every state you have two slates of electors, one for each party. So here in Michigan, for example, we have 16, 17 electoral votes, something like that. So let's say we have 16 Republican electors and 60 Democratic electors. And who gets to cast their vote on December 14th depends on who wins the state. And it's by popular vote. And it's by simple majority. So let's say the Republican candidate wins Michigan 51-49. That means all the Republican electors cast their votes and none of the Democrat electors get to cast theirs.
It's not just like one elector that decides the state's vote, I don't think. It's like a board of them, isn't it?
Well, like I said, it's several electors. So like I said, there's 16 people that would cast their votes. And as per the Constitution, and again, the way it works is that they're all declared a major party affiliation. So if you're a Republican elector, you're only going to vote if the Republican wins. If you're a Democrat elector, you only vote the Democratic wins. It's not like, well, okay, Joe Biden won the state like 54% to Trump's, 46%. So we're going to appoint, 10 Democratic electors and 6 Republican electors. That's not how it works. It's very much winner take all. Now, there are some states where it's an exception, Nebraska and Maine. That's where they actually have electors for the whole state and then electors for each congressional district. That's what we...
Okay, so in the case of Electoral College, what exactly would you do if a third-party candidate wound up winning that?
then the third-party candidate electors would happen. That's happened before.
They
That's
have
actually,
third-party elected candidates?
yeah, and because there's actually been cases in the past where a third party has actually won the state's popular vote, and they actually won electoral votes. Now, it wasn't enough to ever get to 270, mind you, but it did happen. It does happen. So faithless electors are electors that, you know, have declared a major party affiliation. Their party has won the state's popular vote, but instead of voting for their party, they're going to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to vote for someone else instead. And this does happen, but it's usually like 3 people across the entire country. And sometimes it's traditional. Like I said, there's a case in, like, you know, Washington State or Utah or wherever, where this one elector who always votes for like a fucking turtle or something like that. You know, it's just isolated incidents. But there was a SCOTUS decision this year that said, because first of all, the whole reason faithless electors exist is because there's nothing in the Constitution that technically says the electors have to cast their ballots for their party affiliation. That's just kind of how things have been done. SCOTUS made a decision that said, okay, well, if the individual, we're not going to make faithless electors illegal on a federal level, but the individual states, if they want to make faithless electors illegal, they can. And more specifically, if they want to say, okay, if you're a faithless elector, you're going to face severe criminal punishments up to and including jail time. If the states want to do that, they can. So the states absolutely do have ways to kind of root out faithless electors. And I suppose that's something they really wanted to get thing done for this year because of this election, because one of Trump's contingency plans was that in the event that he lost a state like, say, Florida, for example, he would call up Ron DeSantis and he would tell him, listen, you need to appoint a bunch of electors that are friendly to me and will vote for me in the Electoral College. And Ron DeSantis would absolutely do that. And they can do that because ultimately the electors, if there's a disputed election, then the state legislators can decide, okay, we're going to throw out this slate of electors and we're going to appoint this different slate of electors. And in a state like Florida, where you have a sycophant like Ron DeVirus, or Ron Death Sentence as we call him around here, and a Republican...
You call him Ron DeVirus, I call him Ron Death Sentence. That's what happens.
Yeah, but so you have a Trump sycophant in your governorship. You have a Republican-controlled legislature. So if Biden won Florida, they absolutely would try to do that. However, Trump won Florida, and in the states that Trump lost, in the 5 states that Trump lost, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, there's either Democrat-controlled governorships or Republican-controlled legislators that Trump tried to get them to flip, and they were like, nah, dude, we're not going to do it. Fuck off.
That was like the big ligature and things I saw Trump people latch onto, was talking about how most of the cities Trump lost had like Democratic governorship and things like that.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to rationalize away their loss still. It's like, oh, well, it was because they had all the black people showed up. But it's a bit more nuanced than that. The Bulwark actually ran this great article today that examined 3 counties in particular that really kind of explained how Trump got his ass handed to him. These 3 counties were Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, which is where Pittsburgh is located, Oakland County in Michigan, which is the Detroit metro area. It's actually where I live as well, and Dane County in Wisconsin, which is the home of Madison. So in all 3 of these counties, Biden considerably not only overperformed Hillary, but he did enough to make up Trump's margins from 2016. All right, now keep in mind that in 2016, Trump won these 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, by 77,000 votes. This time, he lost those 3 states by 250,000 votes. And it wasn't, and they want to say, well, it's because the cities turned down. That's not the case. Like, take, for example, Philadelphia County, which is where, Philadelphia is located in Pennsylvania. In there, Biden actually did about 4,000 votes worse than Hillary did in 2016 when it came to Donald Trump. Trump actually got a 4,000 vote net gain in Philadelphia County. But in Allegheny County, Biden got 40,000 more votes than Hillary Clinton did. So in other words, in 2016, Trump won Pennsylvania by 44,000 votes. Biden made up that amount in just 1 county. And the same thing happened in Oakland and in Dane County as well, is that they helped kind of Biden make up the statewide margins for that Trump had in 2016. And then after that, it was just a matter of overperforming everywhere else.
I remember one thing they were trying to rationalize is how the hell could Biden have won this one state just from one county?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Well, it's because of the way that these things are played out. Because we talked about how ultimately, all right, so I've been watching a lot of the MAGA Cope videos recently.
I don't know. Okay. I think I kind of get this because you kind of showed me how the Electoral College works, but each state is worth a particular number of electoral votes.
Yes.
And each state is won through the state's popular vote?
Yes.
All right. So if this one county makes up the collective bulk of people in that state, that's what would decide it.
Yeah, so like a couple examples I can point to is that first of all, there was this one MAGA Cope video. I've been watching a lot of MAGA Cope videos because it's comedy gold. And I've been telling, as you all know, Gonzo likes to do these reaction videos where he watches YouTube and then wants to kill himself, or at least that's what I've been told happens.
Half the time, yes.
Yeah, I've floated to the idea to Gonzo of possibly hijacking one of his reaction videos to watch a lot of these MAGA cringe/Cope videos, not only because they're comedy gold, but I think it provides a really great window into the mindset of these people and how it spells trouble for the Republican Party in the future. But so this one video had this guy try to rationalize away the fact that he saw Washington as a quote-unquote red state because the Republicans owned more land. And it's like, buddy, okay,
do they make up the bulk of the voting base?
No, they don't. In fact, he actually admitted in this very same video that, well, the only majority the Democrats have is numbers. Well, that's the only majority you need.
No shit,
bro. Shit, you get the majority in numbers, you get the fucking majority in terms of like this.
Yeah, hold on.
Is he about to make some
This isn't just the first time that this guy has done this.
Only landowners should be allowed to vote in that state?
But here's the thing. This is the first time they try to think
go
that
with the old system. The old system
feudalism.
that we abandoned. We abandoned that old system.
Feudalistic democracy now.
But here's the thing. He's not the only one who did
America
this.
used to be more feudalistic in terms of how to vote. It was only landowners for a little bit.
I feel like I'm being ignored.
And that failed.
Guys, Gonzo's trying to talk. Guys, Gonzo was trying to talk. Gonzo, go ahead.
He's not the first one, because during the impeachment, Trump tried to pull off this exact same reasoning of basically that because there's a lot, he basically used up this one map where it basically shows a lot of red, and he claims, impeach this, but no, that's not it. He thinks that because of the massive amounts of red, he thinks that they're the majority. But the problem is though, land can't vote. And in most of these areas are mostly farmers with big, huge lands that just happens to vote Republican. And when you pull up the populations, when you account for the populations, that little red, if you put it in a special map, looks a little bit smaller than all the clearly blue areas where major metropolitans are and where it just happens to be full of Democratic voters.
Yeah. I mean, I know it is hard to understand, but I mean, for some of you guys on the right to understand, but land doesn't vote. Okay, I mean, seriously, you can have all the red sea. I mean, it does look like when you just look at a county-by-county basis that it looks like blue islands in a sea of red. The problem is no one's living in that sea of red. Seriously, we have landed a dozen or so people on the moon. And if we wanted to, we could assume that if we wanted to call the areas on the moon that we landed as U.S. territory, considering that the majority of the astronauts that went to the moon were, for some reason, from Ohio, if we wanted to grasp at straws, we could say that the parts of the moon that we landed on are Republican territory. Last I checked, the moon is not fucking voting. Like, the fucking moon is not voting.
And it's not inhabitable at the moment, so.
Yeah. Oh, God. I can't wait till we get a lunar base up there, and then we're going to have to... The moon. The fucking moon.
Oh, Jesus.
I do get what people think, why people would say this in a rational sense, though. oftentimes the people that own the bulk of land, companies, and things like that would be able to influence the public opinion.
Yeah, and in fact, here let's talk about.
The question is how isolated these landowners and their influence are from the masses would determine. And the
masses are in metropolitan areas. Now, for a more pertinent example of what it means by how a densely populated like county or even a series of counties can really impact how a state votes. Look what happened in Georgia. We discussed this on the program before, but Georgia is still a very, very red state. But 40% of the population in Georgia lives in Atlanta and a ring of counties that surround Atlanta, make up the metro area. That has gone from red to to not very blue, but considerably more blue than it's been, and certainly in relation to other states. And just that shift alone in those counties was enough to flip Georgia from red to blue. So that's kind of, and because of that shift, because and it's like, well, wait a minute, you're saying that 40% of the population can decide the state. No, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, if 40% goes one way and 60% goes the other way, then yeah, that's how it goes. The problem is that 40%, if that 40% is going to go blue, then you really only need 20% of the rest of the population to not vote for Trump to flip it from red to blue. And that's where we get into things like the Bannon line, which is what the Lincoln Project did. Like Steve Bannon said so himself that if groups like the Lincoln Project could pull off just like 2 to 3% of Trump's voter base from 2016, that Trump was going to lose. And the Lincoln Project ended up moving, I think, like 12% of those voters, I think. So to all the people that said, well, what did the Lincoln Project do? Well, there's your answer. They got 12% of Trump's voters to either vote for Biden or stay the fuck home.
It's not that big, but all things considered, it's a pretty major step towards the right direction.
It's very interesting the way the Electoral College works, because you could see like a majority of districts flooded in predominantly red voters, but then the densest district, if it had the most people overall voting, would be the ones determining the election. But then we don't determine the entirety of the election by popular vote, because that would leave the election in the hands of like a handful of states.
Yeah, that's always like the argument against the Electoral College, is that if we went to a national popular vote, the election would just really come down to like all the populated states. So New York, California, Washington, or whatever.
I just want to say
that's
a lot
what I'm
of
saying is like,
yeah.
I always say, get rid of the Electoral College. California's running the entire show.
Now,
not precisely. I mean, there's like other states that I think there are some district states that are actually denser than California is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yes, now, again, the counter to all this, this idea that, well, if you got rid of the Electoral College, then only a handful of states would determine the outcome of the election. The counter is that this is already happening. Okay? Because as I've talked about here, this election was over before it began in 35 states. It ultimately came down to 15 or so swing states that are actually competitive. So Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin.
It would just change who that handful of states are.
Exactly. It's just so it would go from like states that can kind of swing back and forth between Republican and Democrat to states that are very populated and probably lean more Democrat than others. I mean, you have New York and California. And I guess the highly populated Republican states would be Texas and, I don't know, Florida maybe. So that's
why there are just people that have like a real hard-on to prevent California from fully deciding the vote.
Yeah, I think it's because
I don't like the idea of California fully deciding all.
And you live there.
The I live in California, but. Listen, California has such a different mindset. The entire state of California has such a different mindset than the rest of the U.S., okay?
Well, it's like they push a lot of progressive policy, but it's too expensive for anyone to actually live
crazy.
There. Yeah.
It's fucking expensive as hell! You want to talk about... about that shit?
By the way, Ren, by the way. Since you are in California, I was wondering if you could confirm to us whether or not New California is a real state.
What the fuck is a New California? Is it better than the old California? Because, wow. If
Okay,
that was a New California, I'd want to go there.
What
All
is
right.
this whole New California shit? Is it just the rural half of California wanting to be its own
Okay,
state?
well, all right.
Does
So
the
to
North want to be its own state? Well, majority of the North, not the Bay Area.
Here's the thing.
Of course,
all right. So to kind of get into that and to the main topic for tonight. So the Trump campaign is, to quote our guy Rick Wilson, rapidly running out of altitude and ideas. So they didn't do this, but a bunch of people that are loyal to Trump filed what might have just been their last best hope to try and overturn the election. The Texas Attorney General decided to sue Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and I believe it was either Arizona or Nevada. Decided to sue
Arizona.
4 other states. What? Was that?
Arizona.
It was Arizona? Okay. So the Texas Attorney General decided to sue 4 other states and petition the Supreme Court to invalidate their votes. This suit was joined by the Attorney Generals of 17 other states. I don't have that list for me right now, but safe to say that they're all red states. And 126 members of the Republican members of the House of Representatives also endorsed this lawsuit. This includes returning favorites such as Jim Jordan, Devin Nunes, Doug Collins, all the people that we've mentioned before on this program many, many times. So,
Here's the specific real quick. The thing that they're arguing about is that they're all mail-in votes that should not have been happening because many of these have I want to say they have no excuse mail-in votes. That's been happening because, here's the thing. We have a pandemic. Getting a whole lot of people out to vote on election day would be a risky thing because that would cause an outbreak. So many of these states have allowed to do mail-in votes for people who want to stay home and avoid the coronavirus. And Texas was pretty much just like, well, that can't be fucking right. Because that's not supposed to happen. You're no. We're going to invalidate all those mail-in votes because they obviously went Democratic. So that means that Biden cheated his way out.
Yeah, and the excuse they used for invalidating the mail-in votes, it wasn't just, it wasn't as blatant as, well, they didn't go for our guy. It was some really bullshit reason where it's like, well, they're unconstitutional because something, I don't know. But anyway,
There's nothing in the Constitution about mail-in ballots.
No, there is. So here's the first problem with this whole suit, okay? If you're the Attorney General of a state, you have no right to sue another state. You don't. You just don't, okay? You cannot, like, whenever there's a legal dispute between the states, it's usually over interstate commerce or land and water rights, and that's pretty much it.
Doesn't a lawyer, or an attorney general, domestically established in that state have to be the one to sue the state?
Pretty much. Like, if I'm the Attorney General of Michigan, I can't sue Florida for how they run their election. I can't do that.
And then there are people that look at these illegal lawsuits that were casted and they just got thrown out because they're afraid. Never mind the fact that one state just tried to sue another.
Yeah, several.
I sue you, state.
Which that's literally written in the Constitution, by the way. One of the things that is written in the Constitution is state sovereignty. And one thing they'll mention is that federal arbitration and arbitration of other states cannot sue each other.
Yep, cannot.
I read that. I was literally in a stream reading off sections of the Constitution. And I read that amendment. It was... it's ingrained in the supreme law of the land.
Yeah, it's in the Constitution.
You can't be in Michigan and sue Georgia.
It's in the Constitution, but Biden won. We don't want that. We want to keep Trump in for 4 more years because what's the worst he could do?
Tell me again about that Second Amendment, by the way, because if you continue with this, people are going to start to question what else they can just squeeze out of the Constitution.
The reason I bring up New California is because the actual amicus brief that was filed to the Supreme Court, 2 of the states that I guess supported this were the states of New California and New Nevada. which, as far as I
Where
know,
are these located?
I
according
do
to
not
them?
know.
New California
Where
and
are
New
these?
Nevada.
Where's the new Nevada?
I-
Is there a new Las Vegas?
Okay, I do
want
have
to
a
see if
bit
there
of-
was a,
Maybe
there's a
New
new
Mexico,
Las
but-
Vegas.
Here's
Maybe
what I
there's a new
understood.
Vegas. I don't know.
Here's what I understood. Back in 2018, the major metropolitan cities of California was wanting to break apart from the actual state of California, where it's mostly farmland, rednecks, and the unlikables that are liberal.
They
That
never
didn't
did
happen.
it, though.
That never
They
happened
never
because
did
it would be crazy to do that. Just having a state, mostly of all the major metropolitan cities of
Just so-
California, from as far north as San Francisco and all the way down to San Diego.
Just so you could have a few extra red and blue states.
Okay,
we're talking about turning half of California into a purely agriculture-based state, which
And like, well,
Well-
Idaho's that. I think Iowa is that. Like, fucking. Yeah,
A good chunk
there
of
can
Indiana
be-
is that too.
but Iowa
can
and
be purely
Idaho have
agricultural
better
state.
farmland. Don't you understand?
Absolutely. That doesn't make it non-rural.
all right.
or
Okay,
non-urban
so
or
I
non-
do have some information on the people behind these movements. These are people that are actual, honest to God secessionists. They are not they are not Fallout New Vegas LARPers. I'm very sorry to say.
Confederacy shall rise again.
Yeah, I'm very
South will rise.
I am very sorry to say that these are not people that are trying to LARP out the new California Republic. I'm very sorry to say that.
Damn it! I thought
Yeah.
that was gonna be the thing.
That would be
My
fucking
God.
awesome.
I'm very sorry to say that is not the case here. So the guy in charge of the New Nevada movement is a fellow by the name of Robert Thomas. He is a conspiratist who, and I'm really not kidding here, lives near a old nuclear testing site in Nevada, which
Oh,
I
so
think
that
explains a
explains
lot.
Okay, explains why he's crazy
okay.
in the head. It's
Goddamn
because
nukes,
the
they're getting
nuclear...
into his brain.
Yeah, it pretty much just melted his brain into a big bunch of mush. Only kept
Still-
together
still
by
functions
conspiracies.
by a miracle, but yeah.
Yeah, but this guy apparently has been trying to start this New Nevada movement for a while now. Last year, he actually wrote a letter to the editor of the Pahrump Valley Times. And I see if I can actually get the letter here for you guys, because I kind of want to read this.
Wait. Was that one guy that, like, petitioned the Superior Court of California to execute gay people by firing squad?
I don't know.
That was actually something I read about with my friend Sarah. I did an old podcast called the Snugglebear Podcast. There was a man that petitioned the state of California to have concentration camps for gay people where they could be executed by firing squad.
What for,
What
though?
do you kuto?
What for?
I'm not kidding. In the state of California.
In the state of
'cause they
California,
just because they didn't like gay people. This is around the time that gay marriage had just about freshly been passed. It was just about to be, and essentially what this man had decided is, gay people are a purge. They're molesting our kids and shit. We just need to concentrate them. Just get them out of here, or put them down before they go molesting children. Right? Yeah.
Sorry, but last I checked, unless there's some statistic that proves
That was
me wrong.
real.
Okay, so I don't
That
know.
was real.
All right, so
that was a man that petitioned California's government. It didn't go through, but
I don't take credit.
I'm sorry, but most of the people that Chris Hansen put to jail wasn't guys touching little boys. They were trying to go for little girls.
all right, so I don't have a lot of information about this Robert Thomas guy, but there is a letter to the editor that he wrote to the was trying to think here. Where is it? The Pahrump Valley Times. I just said it, so I should know. He wrote about how Nevada was a tyrannical democracy. I
Tyrannical democracy.
don't really know how that works.
how
Well,
does tyranny work in a system where you get to elect your officials?
okay. Do you want me to? I have the letter to the editor right now. Should I read? Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, what is his logic that makes this
Yes.
thing tyrannical? Because it's not
Okay,
red.
so this is from Robert E. Thomas III, the chairman of the New Nevada State Movement, in a letter to the editor to the Pahrump Valley Times. He says as follows. The answer to Tim Burke's editorial, "Are rural counties breaking the law?" is no. Movements like the New Nevada State Movement want two things. The constitutionally guaranteed Republican form of government, as guaranteed in the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, and that state governments respect and not usurp the individual rights guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. Our founding fathers feared tyranny in any form, including the mob rule of a democracy. In 1967, the state of Nevada was changed from a Republican form of government to a tyrannical democracy. The proof of the tyranny are the last two elections. Rural Nevada voted one way, and the majority in Clark County voted the opposite. The Clark County view won. Consider what our founding fathers knew. Laws enacted that usurp God-given individual rights are not lawful laws and are not to be obeyed. Consider the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, which states in part, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land." Since the Constitution includes the Bill of Rights, is the supreme law of land, laws which purport to restrict those constitutional rights are not made in pursuance thereof, and therefore not valid laws.
I will say, they're not entirely wrong about the founding fathers fearing the tyranny of the mob, but they misinterpreted this.
Yeah,
George Washington and the founding fathers were afraid of a direct democracy. That's why they decided on a representative democracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is basically some sovereign citizen type bullshit here.
I am a sovereign citizen. Excuse me.
Do you know why they were afraid of a direct democracy?
Yeah.
The fall of Rome. History had recorded that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, like I said, I don't have anything on the new California guy. Again, I'm just... you'd hope and pray that these are people that want to create the new California Republic from Fallout, but I'm not that optimistic. Anyway, so this amicus brief, which
Listen,
again...
I want that two-headed bear flag, man.
I actually have a friend who has that.
Huh. But anyways, back to the main issue.
So, like I said, this amicus brief was filed in the Supreme Court by the Texas Attorney General, and the case was called Texas v. Pennsylvania et al. It was supported by 17 other state attorney generals, 126 members of the Republican House of Representatives. For what it's worth, there are 70 Republicans who did not sign it. To them, I say, you want a fucking cookie? Okay, you don't get a reward for not supporting sedition, okay? So, whatever. The Supreme Court on Friday... put out their motion, and I have the Supreme Court text here, which is as follows. It's very, very short. The state of Texas's motion for leave to file a bill of complaint is denied for lack of standing under Article 3 of the Constitution. Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. All other pending motions are dismissed as moot. Here's a following statement from Justice Alito and Justice Thomas. In my view, we do not have discretion to deny the filing of a bill of complaint in a case that falls within our original jurisdiction. See Arizona v. California, 589 U.S., February 24, 2020. I would therefore grant the motion to file the bill of complaint, but would not grant other relief, and I express no view on another issue. So let me just translate this from SCOTUS to layman's terms. They basically said, Texas, get the fuck out of here! We're not dealing with this shit. Fuck off. We're not doing this. Go get your heads out of your fucking asses. And that's, and even then, the only one concession they could possibly get was, Alito saying, okay, yeah, I'd grant the motion, but if you're expecting me to rule in your favor, quit drinking and go to fucking bed. So, yeah, SCOTUS told them to fuck off, and the Texas Republican Party put out the following statement in aftermath of this. Now, I will say that this statement is only slightly better than all the various takes I've been seeing on Parlor, which has been some very, very quality salt there that we may or may not get into later on in the program. We're trying a new segment now where we go to Parlor Takes and we see what the hell they're talking about on Parlor. But anyway, so this is the statement made by the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. This is a statement made by Chairman Allen West. The Supreme Court, in tossing of the Texas lawsuit that was joined by 17 states and 126 U.S. congressmen, have decreed that a state can take unconstitutional actions and violate its own election law, resulting in damaging effects on other states that abide by the law, while the guilty state suffers no consequences. This decision establishes a precedent that says states can violate the U.S. Constitution and not be held accountable. This decision will have far-reaching ramifications for the future of our constitutional republic. Perhaps law-abiding states should bond together and form a union of states that will abide by the Constitution. The Texas GOP will always stand for the Constitution and the rule of law, even while others don't. Okay, so That is basically whine, 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 whine. Hey, maybe we should secede, guys. Whine, 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 whine. So, yeah, that's basically their response to this whole thing is.
Wait. So they were talking about other states violating the Constitution in their attempts to demand that the Supreme Court overturn other states' votes.
Yeah. Like, Texas has decided...
While they were also de facto trying to sue these other states, which was directly against the Constitution.
Yes.
How... Whose wet dream is this? How did they think this up?
It's not even a wet... It's not wet dream, Sharp. This is like...
They're going to sit here and talk about violation of the Constitution whilst they directly and unequivocally violated the Constitution.
It definitely ain't mine, because big tits would have been involved.
Big tits definitely would have been involved.
But
Okay,
anyways.
yeah. This is not a wet...
Here we got we'd have to have secession with big tits. It needs to be done.
But anyways, back to the matter at hand. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
had to get
this
that
is
joke out of the way.
just a case where it's like, this is not even a wet dream. This is like the last living brain cell comes up with this. This is just pure desperation from these guys, because there's always been... So, there has never been like a there for the true believers. There's never really been anything, like I said last time, these are people that are just yelling about conspiracy theories at the top of their lungs and hoping to make it real, but it's not happening. They're just not real. So they've been trying literally everything to do this. This is like their last hope. I mean, nothing has worked. You know, Rudy and his elite strike force have been laughed out of court, and all incidentally have now gotten COVID, by the way. They're 1 in 55 on lawsuits. The Kraken has been sliced up and is now being served on sushi platters. It's just... It's all kind of fallen apart for these guys. Nothing has worked out, and it's now you're reaching a point where they're out of legal options. So now the question becomes, well, okay, what if they decide, well, if we can't do this within the law, we'll have to go outside the law. Honestly, it's been very interesting watching the response from the true believers over this, because...
Right. So, how are you going to get states to overturn their vote outside the law?
You can't.
Short of trying to establish a military junta, I mean, it's, actually...
A war, essentially.
Oh, God,
yeah,
no.
not even we're not at the Civil War phase yet, but we are at the Trump should declare martial law phase. That is currently
So here's the thing, right? He declares martial law. He's already been voted out come January. Is he still going out of the White House, or does the president get to stay in after they've declared martial law?
Honestly, this is the part where it's like, remember
the
how...
military can just tell him no.
Yeah, I mean, because the military absolutely can tell him no, okay? Because, believe it or not, the military, soldiers have the obligation to disobey illegal orders. And there have been moments where Trump has asked the Department of Defense if they could do something that would not be strictly speaking legal, and the DoD's response has been, yeah, fuck off, we're not doing that. So
the Department of Defense has kind of already decided, yeah, Trump, you're not declaring martial law.
Yeah, I know that Trump has really been doing a purge over in the Pentagon and putting a lot of his close allies in position at the Pentagon.
But those people are standing firm and saying, I don't care who you put in charge, we're not doing this.
Well, yeah, what we're seeing right now, a lot of the reason for the kind of freakouts on the true believer side is that, so we talked about how Trump has a very transactional view of the world. Like, he expects you to do something for him. Like, if he gives you a job, he basically expects you to do whatever you can to help him out for time evermore until he decides that you're no longer any use to him.
Do what I say. I've decided what's good for the American people, and if you don't agree with it, out you go.
Yeah, and that's really the kind of mindset that these people had about, like, everyone, it's gotten to the point... That
literally sounds like the mindset of a king, by the way.
Well, that's how he views himself. It's like he has a very tyrannical, authoritarian view of the country. I mean,
all these people are like, well, he can fire people for whatever reason he wants. Yes, he can, but look at the reason he's firing them for. This is literally the mindset of a king. No, it's not.
It's not. Trump's not a king. He's our king.
He's the Fuhrer, goddamn.
Yeah, but so there's another Twitter account that I've been following. It's I believe it's called Coping. Yeah, it's Coping MAGA, and these are the guys that also they browse Parlor and MAGA Twitter and so on and so forth. So I loved their pinned tweet, by the way. Their pinned tweet is Trump really blew $3 million to give Biden 132 more votes. That has to be the L of the decade. That's a reference to the Wisconsin recount, which for those who don't remember, they did the recounts in Wisconsin and Georgia. Georgia was mandated. Wisconsin, Trump had to pay $3 million for. Both recounts found more votes for Joe Biden. And it was like
That was funny. That was
a couple
totally
hundred.
funny.
It was like only like a couple 100,000 votes, but still the fact that they found more votes for Biden was like the fucking cherry on top.
Yeah, I was talking with Ben Paddock the other day, and they brought that up. That was funny.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Didn't they actually arbitrate one of the states that they actually found more votes for Biden?
yeah.
Also, that's accurate. They are British.
So
So the world has been paying attention to this little escapade, it seems. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
yeah, the world. Everyone's. Well, I mean, this is what happens when it's like because what I want to emphasize this. We're laughing and joking about all this, but nothing that's happening right now. None of this is normal. Okay, this has never happened before in the history of this country.
We didn't even do this when we thought Gore was trying to rob the election from Bush, I think.
No, I didn't. And understand this, okay? There have been cases where, yes, the election has been contested. But in those cases, every time before now that the election's been contested, it's because there was actually like a legitimate question as to the matter of the outcome. Okay, so take, for example, 1800. Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr tie in the Electoral College, and John Adams ultimately wins. 1824, no one gets a majority of votes in the Electoral College. 1876, both parties claimed victory in 3 contested states, and it was the first time where the guy who lost the popular vote had more Electoral College votes. So, and of course, then you had 2000s. So what happened in 2000 was much different than what's happening now because it was about one state that literally was going to decide the election, and more specifically, it was about 537 votes in that one state. So any candidate of any political party would have done what Al Gore did. Like, we made fun of Gore at the time for being a sore loser. We still kind of make fun of him now, but let's be honest. If it came down to one freaking state and there was 500 votes that separated you from the other guy that won, you'd probably want to recount, if for no other reason than to make like, okay, this is like really fucking important. We got to make sure we get this right because the next president hangs in the balance, okay? This is not a case where the outcome is really in doubt. The votes have all been certified. The margins were close electorally speaking, but from a pure number standpoint, they're not close enough to where there could really be any doubt. And all the results are certified. The electors are voting tomorrow. This is a case of the President of the United States, an entire political party, and up to 74 million Americans denying reality. This is people that may be willing to engage in actual violence rather than accept the reality which has been presented before them.
And they call the Democrats sore losers. Fuck.
I know. I mean, it's like you look at these Twitter accounts here.
You had a few riots in a few cities that lasted for a few days and then it tapered off. Here we have like quite literally a desire to usurp the entire election system,
and it's starting to get a little serious too.
And well, first of all, go ahead, Gato. Go ahead.
It started to get serious too because over the weekend we ended up realizing that there was also another Million MAGA March attempt that happened over the weekend, and unlike the last one, this one ended up resulting in like 4 stabbed people over this.
Yeah.
Also, here's another thing too. When people like talk about all these illegitimate ballots came in, where'd they come from? How are these ballots illegitimate? What made them illegitimate?
Well, you remember where they came from, Sharp.
Clearly marked vans with Biden and Harris on the side.
Well, where did the vans come from?
From zombie Hugo Chavez.
Oh, yeah, that makes... And it's the thing, like, several times they tried to show, like, oh, a woman was, like, signing untabulated ballot. What was it? Like, there was this one African-American lady in an office or something like that is, like, some footage they try to cite. And they were saying that she was tabulating or passing through unmarked ballots. I'm pretty sure, like, the office desk she was in, she was sending the ballots out. Not, like... I don't...
It's hard to follow.
It's confusing because I've never gone directly to the ballot office. I've never seen the whole process when it comes to sending out mail-in ballots. I don't know every nook and cranny, and neither do the people that are trying to contest it. Like, so you're gonna have to, like, I don't know. Like, what's the motivation in a predominantly red district to win over, like, to make Biden win? If anything,
well,
even the people tabulating and counting the ballots probably didn't vote blue. So,
well, you remember, Sharp, that now, according to the True Believers, Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Raffensperger down in Georgia are now in on the conspiracy with George Soros and zombie Hugo Chavez to elect Joe Biden. Oh, and by the way,
these were Republican state officials, right?
Yeah. They are, and the GOP, and these people are absolutely turning on the Republicans now. Like, we've talked before about how I couldn't tell if this was just, people shitposting or if this was something legitimate. It's getting to the point where now I think it's actually real. Because
we're all doing the whole us versus them mentality of things, right? Like, everybody wants to say all these bad things about Democrats, but now people are actually questioning the word of Republican state officials on a Republican issue.
Yes, and let me just get some stuff here.
Who is them anymore? Who is them anymore? Because apparently they're all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
Before, at least you had, like, some sort of specific thing to point to. The Democrats. Now it's like it's a fucking cabal within the Republican Party itself.
Apparently.
All of the people you said were non-Trump loyalists had already left. And that's why you called, like, the Lincoln Project a bunch of traitors. But they weren't inside the Republican Party. These were all officials that left the Senate, left the House of Representatives. Like,
but yeah, I mean, to kind of go to the rally that Gonzo mentioned. One of the people speaking at this rally was Nick Fuentes. He was a YouTuber who got himself kicked off of the platform back in February. He was one of the guys at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, and he's, by all accounts, this guy is like a legit far-right asshole. But he was at this rally, and he said, "We are going to destroy the GOP because in their minds, they're not doing anything to keep Trump in power." And that's kind of...
So the GOP is in on the conspiracy now. Like, the GOP are also the bad guys to these people.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily that they're in on the conspiracy. It's that in their mind, they're letting it happen. Like, they're letting it happen. Like, I'm trying to find the tweets here from...
Letting what happen? You've been told over and over again you don't have any evidence. The things you've shown don't mean what you think they mean.
Yeah, but Sharp, you must understand, these people, they just don't live in any sort of reality. Like, they think that whenever they hear that we couldn't find any evidence, that's a sign that, Bill Barr has been corrupted by the deep state or what have you.
How many different investigations now have people established in Georgia? Because I know there was a state investigation.
They counted those votes 3 times.
3 times now.
Yep. And
every single time they changed the people counting and tabulating the ballots. They did not have the same people, right?
Yeah.
Like, then what is the question of legitimacy here? Is it that the ballots that are constantly being recounted, some of them in that stack, are illegitimate?
It's because...
What is it?
It's because if they admit that these results are legit, then that means that... Well, here, let me just kind of give you I guess I'm going to give you guys a preview of our MAGA Cope segment for tonight. We're going to look at the parlor, or parlays, if you will, by one of the more notable supporters of Donald Trump these last 4 years. You may have heard of this guy. His name is Milo Yiannopoulos.
Fuck him.
Oh, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
I thank Father Michael every day.
So the following the following are tweets that were made by Milo in response to the SCOTUS ruling, and I'm going to go in chronological order here, what I think is chronological order.
The tyranny of the Supreme Court. We're about to see it, aren't we?
He starts off with, in all caps, burn the Republican Party to the fucking ground. Trump's SCOTUS appointments were pointless. We defended a selfish clown for nothing. The South must rise again. Don't really know where that came from. I lost everything helping to put Trump in office. My life and career were completely destroyed. Was it worth it? No. I feel utterly betrayed. I will have vengeance. There are only two options now, secession or war, and secession is preferable.
So is Milo a Trump loyalist, or is he against Trump?
I'm not really sure. He's not a Republican loyalist, I can tell you that.
Because, yeah, the GOP flat out kicked him out of their convention when they found out the things he said on the Drunken Peasants podcast.
Yeah, once he did that, it's
Somebody
like...
had forwarded that information to them, and they were like, this man is literally defending the molestation of young men, gay or not. Like,
yeah, once that happened, it's like...
This guy's a really self-hating gay guy. Like, really.
Well, what he said was fucked up, but it was grounded in some level of reality, and that's the fact that most gay people's come to God moment is when they are touched inappropriately and have something very god-awful done to them. That's not a good thing, though.
Okay, so let me, so like I said, I'm going to save the rest of the MAGA cope / Civil War masturbatory fantasies for later on in the program. There's a article here written in The Atlantic by George Packer that will be in our issue next month. And I think it does a really good idea to kind of crystallize the mindset these folks have. So I'm just going to read directly from the article here, okay? Presidents lie routinely about everything, from war to sex to their health. When the lies are consequential enough, they have a corrosive effect on democracy. Lyndon B. Johnson deceived Americans about the Gulf of Tonkin incident and everything else concerning the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon's lifelong habit of prevaricating gave him the nickname Tricky Dick. After Vietnam and Watergate, Americans never fully recovered their trust in government. But these cases of presidential lying came from a time when the purpose was limited and rational: to cover up a scandal, make a disaster disappear, mislead the public in service of a particular goal. In a sense, Americans expected a degree of fabrication from their leaders. Jimmy Carter in his 1976 campaign promised, "I'll never lie to you," and pretty much kept his word, and then voters sent him back to Georgia because Ronald Reagan's gauzy fictions were far more popular. But Trump's lies were different. They belong to the postmodern era. They were assaults against not this or that fact, but reality itself. They spread beyond public policy to invade private life, clouding the mental faculties of everyone who had to breathe his air, dissolving the very distinction between truth and falsehood. Their purpose was never the conventional desire to conceal something shameful from the public. He was stunningly forthright about things that other presidents would have gone to great lengths to keep secret. His true feelings about Senator John McCain and other war heroes, his eagerness to get rid of disloyal underlings, his desire for law enforcement to protect his friends and hurt his enemies, his efforts to extort a foreign leader for dirt on a political adversary, his affection for Kim Jong-un and admiration for Vladimir Putin, his positive view of white nationalists, his hostility toward racial and religious minorities, and his contempt for women. The most mendacious of Trump's predecessors would have been careful to limit these thoughts to private recording systems. Trump spoke them openly, not because he couldn't control his impulses, but intentionally, even systematically, in order to demolish the norms that would otherwise have constrained his power. To his supporters, his shamelessness became a badge of honesty and strength. They grasped the message that they too could say whatever they wanted without apology. To his opponents, fighting by the rules, even in as small a way as calling him President Trump, seemed like a sucker's game. So the level of American political language was everywhere dragged down, leaving a gaping shame deficit. Trump's barrage of falsehoods, as many as 50 a day in the last months of the 2020 campaign, complemented his unconcealed brutality. Lying was another variety of shamelessness. Just as he said aloud what he was supposed to keep to himself. He lied again and again about the matters of settled fact. The more brazen and frequent the lie, the better. 2 days after the polls closed, with the returns showing him almost certain to lose, Trump stood at the White House podium and declared himself the winner of an election that his opponent was trying to steal. This crowning conspiracy theory of Trump's presidency activated his entitled children, compliant staff, and sycophants in Congress and the media to issue dozens of statements declaring that the election was fraudulent. Following the mechanism of every big lie of the Trump years, the Republican Party establishment fell in line. Within a week of Election Day, false claims of voter fraud in swing states have received almost 5 million mentions in the press and on social media. In one poll, 70% of Republican voters concluded that the election hadn't been free and fair. So a stab in the back narrative was buried in the minds of millions of Americans, where it burns away as imperishable as a carbon isotope, consuming whatever is left of their trust in democratic institutions and values. This narrative will widen the gap between Trump believers and their compatriots who might live in the same town but a different universe. And that was Trump's purpose, to keep us locked in a mental prison where reality was unknowable so that he could go on wielding power whether in and out of office, including the power to destroy. So, for his opponents, the lies were intended to be profoundly demoralizing. Neither counting them, nor fact-checking them, nor debunking conspiracies made any difference. Trump demonstrated again and again that the truth doesn't matter. In rational people, this provoked incredulity, outrage, exhaustion, and finally an impulse to crawl away and abandon the field of politics to the fantasists. But for believers, the consequences were worse. They surrendered the ability to make basic judgments about facts, exiling themselves from the common framework of self-government. They became litter swirling in the wind of any preposterous claim that blew from Trump's Twitter account. Truth was whatever made the world whole again by hurting their enemies. The more far-fetched, the more potent and thrilling. After the election, as charges of voter fraud began to pile up, Matthew Sheffield, a reformed right-wing media activist, tweeted, "Truth for conservative journalists is anything that harms the left. It doesn't even have to be a fact. Trump's numerous lies about any subject under the sun are thus justified because his deceptions point to a larger truth, that liberals are evil." So that whole summation right there, I think, really gives a good insight into the mindset here. Okay, these people are not interested in objective truth or historical truth or personal truth, to complete the Captain Picard reference. It's all about what satisfies their worldview. And their belief is that, well, the left has to be evil, and they have to be cheating, and they have to be putting their fingers on the scales, and Joe Biden has to be illegitimate, because if he's not, then, oh my God, I spent 4 years supporting the single worst president in the history of the country.
Just because I hated a bunch of people online.
Yeah, for what? Stock markets?
It feels like the same mentality from the guy that wrote Josie Wales, because it was actually theorized that man went on to change like his like the tone of his skin, his identity, and things like that. He claimed to be of like Native American descent. The guy wrote Josie Wales, but the theory here behind the guy that wrote Josie Wales, which I think was later found out to be true, was that this was the guy that wrote the Segregation Tomorrow speech, that wrote Josie Wales, which was a very good, insightful story into how people who lost the Civil War might have felt. Mm-hmm. And even to some degree, how you could actually see members of the United States Union as evil. Because the story was framed in a very particular way, but Josie Wales in the story was not a bigot or a racist. In fact, what was ironic was he wound up making a family out of a huge, diverse group of people that he all considered his friends. It was a very interesting story, I have to say, from a man who was a sworn Confederate, no less. Yeah.
And that mindset we're now seeing here from people on the right. In fact, I mean, I just saw one of the MAGA co-posts I saw has people discussing on R. the Donald that, you know, maybe the Confederacy was right about something. I mean, you know... I mean,
you know, literally, I remember seeing a video. I remember seeing a video of a guy who was like, my grandfather worked hard to earn his land and his profit and his product, and people are just spitting all over his name. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and I remember the black guy on the other end looks at this guy as like, who were the product? It's like, look, do you know how much a slave cost back then? Oh my God!
Yeah,
you guys sit here and talk about market value of a human life like you're not living in the 21st century.
The product was a device that does hard work
Oh, that goddamn donkey was worth 40 million.
Look, the best I could get for you for this slave is like $250.
I'll tell you.
We're talking about this shit like we're selling used cars. I want to make a point about that.
No, I'll tell you. No, this one is a very fast model.
A very fast model.
He can pick a whole.
One
Time
he
force worth of cotton, I tell you.
All right, guys.
With one arm tied behind his back.
Okay. I'm sorry.
God, I'm sorry.
All right, so we do have a bit of news here that just came across my Twitter feed. It's nothing serious, by the way. Trump hasn't started a nuclear war yet.
Oh, Jesus.
The Cleveland Indians have announced that they are going to drop the Indian name. So
What are they changing it? Yeah.
they haven't said yet, but for now they are the Cleveland baseball team, just as the Washington Redskins will be the Washington football team are now. But
that's shit. Hopefully somebody comes up with a better name.
well, there is a
Washington
football team. The Washington football team, yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, we are proud members of the Washington football
team. Yeah, well, so for right now, I guess they're gonna not have a replacement name, but they will come up with a name at some point in time. There is a lot. People on Twitter are lobbying for the Cleveland Spiders.
No,
Spiders.
no, because arachnophobia. Hello.
Hey! Spider-Man exists.
Yeah, but he's
Too
not
bad he's
an
copyrighted.
actual spider. And yeah, copyright issues.
You can't have the Cleveland Spider-Mans.
Listen, you can have a spider as a mascot. What are you
Of
gonna?
course, but
What are you gonna be like? Oh well, if
You know what? I just thought of a name
What
as
the
a
hell
joke.
else
Are
does-
afraid
what
of
the
ha-
hell else does Cleveland have? Because I'm sure nobody wants fucking a team called the Cleveland Steamers. Jesus
Yes,
Christ.
I was about to go there. I was about to fucking go there.
listen
Well,
here.
I mean, it's only the only thing I know out of Cleveland is the fact that the Drew Carey show was that was where the Drew Carey show was supposed to have happened.
The Cleveland Drews, if you will.
Oh my lord. I do get it though. They like found and established a name, and it's not their fault that people are offended by that name. They've had it like for years and years and years. Someone else put it there, but
It's just that sadly with new rules and everything, it's just like it's not going to last very long.
and I
What's
get
so
it
bad
too,
about
'cause,
the
like,
name of the Cleveland Spiders? That sounds cool.
well, yeah, and most of these people that wanted to keep this old name, it's really not racially driven. It's just familiarity and not wanting to give up what's familiar. It really is all it's about. Mm-hmm. But it can't be helped. Too many people just don't want that anymore.
All right. All right, so let's get back to the other main thing I wanted to discuss tonight. Before we get into a brief conversation about the death penalty, and then, if we have time, some mock assault. As you all know, we're keeping you abreast of Joe Biden's picks for his cabinet. He made a particularly significant pick just this past week. He picked his Secretary of Defense. And this is the first real pick that people are going, I don't know about that, Joe. I don't know about this one. So the pick for Secretary of Defense is another general, a fellow by the name of Lloyd Austin. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up his resume for you all now. He is a retired 4-star. He was he graduated from West Point with a BS in science and Bachelor of Science in 1975. Also has a Master of Arts degree in Council Education from Auburn University and a Master's of Business Administration and Business Management from Webster University. He also graduated the Army Command and General Staff College and the Army War College, so he's a pretty smart guy. And he's had quite the distinguished career in the United States Army. He initially was the commander of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, then the 82nd Airborne Division, then the 10th Mountain Division, then the the 18th Airborne Corps. I mean, this guy really moved up the ranks, and he then became the commanding general of. It was actually the last commanding general of our forces in Iraq before we pulled out officially. He retired from the armed services in 2016. He also served as the 12th commander of U.S. Central Command, first black man to actually be CENTCOM commander. And Central Command is basically our unified military command for everything in basically in like the Middle East and things of that area. So it's actually a pretty big deal to kind of be overseeing all the military operations there. He retired in 2016 and served on the board of Raytheon Technologies as well as a couple other companies. And he has now been nominated as Secretary of Defense by Joe Biden. And it says here on the Wikipedia page that Biden became acquainted with Austin while he was CENTCOM commander under Obama. And he received... he reportedly grew to trust Austin after receiving his briefings. Now, I do believe that he actually succeeded Jim Mattis as yes, he was James Mattis, who was the first SecDef under Trump, was actually Austin's predecessor at Central Command. Now, here's the part where people are kind of going, I don't know about this. So, Austin's going to need a congressional waiver for the National Security Act of 1947, which states that after you leave the military, you have to wait 7 years before you take a high-ranking government position. Jim Mattis got that waiver to serve as Secretary of Defense. He will need to get this waiver as well if he wishes to serve. Considering the current state of Congress, whether or not that waiver will be passed, I really have no idea. And for what it's worth, former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates and former Secretary Colin Powell have supported the nomination, but other people are a little bit concerned, and here's why. The Secretary of Defense has traditionally been a civilian position. And you might say, well, why is that? Because you would think that it makes sense to have a general be in control, right? Well, the U.S. strongly believes in civilian control of the military. There's an old saying that war is too important to be left to the generals. The idea is being that at the end of the day, when it comes to what our military is doing, you want civilians in charge rather than military people. Because the fear is that if the military was run by people who were in the military, they might be considerably more hawkish than a civilian would be. Not to mention, by having civilians in charge of the military, it again kind of feeds back into the idea of liberal democracy, a nation by the people, for the people, and as a sense that we the people are in charge, that ultimately we the people are in control of the military. They can't just go off and do their own thing, and there's fuck all we can do about it. So Jim Mattis, when he was appointed Secretary of Defense, raised a lot of eyebrows for the same reason. And so people are definitely having a bit of a conversation when it comes to General Austin here. Not necessarily because they don't think he's qualified. I mean, by all accounts, he's very, very qualified. But because, A, he is so fresh out of the military that they're going to have to get a waiver just to get him the job. And B, again, this idea that should we really have a general in charge of our armed forces? And technically, the president is the commander-in-chief, but nonetheless.
I thought it was about something else because, unless I'm mistaking him for something else, there is a conflict of interest that are raising a few eyebrows along with this too.
Well, like I said, I haven't heard anything about a conflict of interest outside of the fact that, again, he's he has worked in the private sector. He was on the board of Raytheon Technologies as of October. Well, as of October, his stock holdings were about $500,000, which is, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like, it's not Kelly Loeffler or David Perdue money. I can tell you that. It's yeah. So like I said, I mean, obviously that's a concern too, but I think the biggest concern people have is the fact that this guy was in the military.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. Then the Raytheon thing is just minor compared to, well, the senators who probably shouldn't be holding office, but are because, gotta get more of that.
Yeah. I mean,
that was actually something. That was actually something that was being brought up with like the police as well. Was people pointing out that a lot of officers being appointed were ex-military. Mm-hmm. And they may or may not have had certain mental illnesses that come from having been in a war.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the one of the critiques I've heard about police officers is that you have instances where okay, so police departments frequently get military surplus material because that's the way, because because we buy a lot of that stuff and it's got to go somewhere when it's no longer usable to us. So that's why I've seen my county sheriffs driving around in a freaking APC. Oakland County is probably the last place in Michigan where you need an APC, but they've got to use it. They got it, and it's all set up for them to, I don't know, when the zombies start attacking or something.
Yeah,
I don't really fucking know.
I think Dr. Martin Luther King brought up like a thing or two about militarism of the police.
Yeah. Well, King was also an outspoken critic of Vietnam, so that's part of the reason that the FBI was keeping an eye on him. But
there were a lot of people that were outspoken critics of Vietnam then.
Yeah. But so the idea is that if you take all this military gear and you put it in the hands of civilians who are not trained to use it, then it's going to cause problems. Like, I remember seeing a segment on, I can't remember where it was, but it was a photograph taken in the aftermath of, of the riots in Ferguson, Missouri, after the shooting of, was it Michael Brown, I think it was? And it's that iconic photograph of like this one protester who's walking on the street and there's like 4 or 5 cops all dressed in like full on tactical gear, body armor, pointing assault rifles at her. And I can't remember if it was like a comment on Twitter or a video or whatever, but it was a former soldier basically who just looked at the picture and he could tell that they had not been trained at all and how to properly use that equipment. It's like, no, you're holding the guns all wrong. You're not supposed to be pointing them up in a threatening manner unless you intend to use them, things of that nature. So that's the one aspect, is that if you put foreign military into policing, they'll at the very least be trained to use the equipment that they're being given. But again, the downside is that
you would have a lot of police that are a lot more hawkish, probably.
Well, again, and as you said, the drawback is that you could have a case where people
PTSD cop. Yeah.
PTSD cops. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Yeah, we would have such a good time with that.
Yeah, we could.
You feel the sarcasm in my voice, like.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it.
At that point, though, I feel like something would be done about PTSD, or like people would try to give the military more mental help, because honestly, they kind of deserve at least that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. Speaking of Kelly Loeffler,
yes.
I posted this. She posted posted a selfie with Chester Doles. He was a former leader of the KKK who currently runs a white supremacist group called American Patriots USA. And Doles posted the picture on, I don't know if it was like Facebook or Parlor or whatever, but he posted it with the caption, Kelly Loeffler and I, misspelled her name, by the way, so yeah, well-educated man there, save America, stop socialism. So...
Yeah, that's a pretty good, wholesome picture. Like, I wonder what charities he's donated to. He seems like an upstanding guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's our weekly dunking on Loeffler and Purdue, because we're just gonna keep dunking. So
I feel like sarcasm is just a better way to do it.
Yeah. Also, speaking of people who deserve to be dunked on, Gonzo posted we got another chapter of the Newt Gingrich experience this afternoon. when Gingrich, I'm trying to find the clip that, or the tweet that Gonzo sent us here. Gingrich said, what did he say?
He basically said, hang on, let me retrace my steps again.
Oh, yeah,
He
I found
basically
it.
said, why is Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger worked so hard to add drop boxes and take other steps to make it harder for Republicans to win? Is he really that intimidated by Stacey Abrams?
You know, Newt, maybe if you didn't have someone relatively high ranking in your party, like, oh, I don't know, the President of the United States, spending months telling Republican voters not to vote by mail, maybe you wouldn't have this problem. Hell, maybe Trump would probably have won re-election. Maybe we wouldn't be sitting here talking about how he's the biggest loser in American history.
Because that's the thing, right? It's like we keep telling ourselves, oh, like, the Republicans didn't really care about the pandemic or anything like that. Like, I think it was like a theory that there would be less turnout for the Republicans because there would be Republicans worried about getting corona at the polls. Because one thing that's not openly talked about is how many Republicans actually believe that the pandemic is a problem. Because we haven't really discussed that on party lines.
Well, okay. Go ahead.
The problem is that, unfortunately, we would have that discussion towards the Republican Party on how bad the coronavirus is. But unfortunately, many of the voters have taken into Trump's impression that, well, it's done deal, and everything else that happens afterwards is all a hoax done by the Democrats.
So our assumption is they're saying how Trump feels, but not how they really feel.
Yeah, they're pretty much bought into what Trump is saying, because I'm afraid there's not much of an original thought for them.
Yeah, I feel like you really can't be broken loose from that mindset unless someone you hold near and dear dies because of the pandemic. Like, that's what it takes to jog you out of this.
Mm-hmm.
A severe loss that is just world-shaking.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I'm trying to find the words here to describe it, but it kind of goes back to what we just talked about, was that the people kind of take their cues now from Trump. Like, they see Trump as their leader now for, like, their whole worldview and everything. And so, I've said this before, that if Trump tweeted out that the Earth is flat, that his followers would instantly accuse NASA of being in on the cover-up. And I'm only half joking, by the way.
There were so many it was such a grift, but I remember there was a point we wanted to try and find out if we could get him to tweet some crazy-ass shit and what people would have to say about it.
Yeah, well, now Trump's legal team, Sidney Powell, is retweeting accounts saying that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris should concede and be locked up for capital punishment or whatever. So I don't think it's going to be...
I just want him to tweet that cannibalism would be a great idea for population control. I want him to tweet that. No. I want him to tweet that because I want to see what people would say about it. Like, this is like a fucking social experiment, right? It's just the wackadoodle things any other politician would tweet, no one will follow. There is no bound, no question, no wonder, just what he could tweet or where people that support his sycophantable bullshit would draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he said, oh my god, there's so many horrible things in my mind that I think he could say, and I'm not certain if people would follow it or not.
Let's not give him any ideas.
But I'm also going down the line of like predatory intent. If he said,
sexually
predatory shit, would people align with it? Like,
okay, so I'm taking a look at Trump's Twitter account now because, as you all know, I unfollowed this guy and I muted him because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do this every single day anymore. But occasionally I peek in to see what's going on, and yep, he's responding to the SCOTUS decision now. Let's see here.
What are we doing, Trump? We getting our guns?
Let's see.
We're getting our guns. That is what we are doing.
Well, first of all, he starts off with SCOTUS. The fact that here, you know what, Ren? I'll just paste the tweets for you, and you can do your Trump impression. As you all know, Ren is the official Trump impersonator of the.
I am the man of orange, as you can see.
He is the official Trump impersonator of the of the cast.
This
There you
is
go.
all I
The
feel.
fact that the Supreme Court wouldn't find standing in an original. The fact that the Supreme Court wouldn't find standing in an original jurisdiction matter between multiple states, and including the President of the states, is absurd. It is enumerated in the Constitution. They just chickened out and didn't want to rule on the merits of the case. So bad for our country.
Holy shit. So words that are longer than 2 fucking syllables.
The,
Yep.
The
the
miracle.
merits of the case was that to them you didn't have anything.
Yeah, you had no merit to the case. That's the problem there, Don.
Do you think the merits of the case is persuaded by the mob, Don?
Yes, absolutely, because I am right.
Oh boy, there's 3
Okay,
more.
yep, and we got 3 more here. Go ahead.
Swing states that have found massive voter fraud, which is all of them, cannot legally certify these votes as complete and correct without committing a severely punishable crime. Everybody knows that dead people, below-age people, illegal immigrants, fake signatures, prisoners, and many others voted illegally. Also, machine glitches, another word for fraud, ballot harvesting.
So here's the thing, right? I forgot if Ohio was a swing state. Who did they vote for?
Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I must have been living under a fucking rock with that one.
Yeah.
My state
All
went
right.
for Trump
Oh, wow.
too. What the fuck? Does that mean
Yeah.
he has
These
all
are
the votes
swing
for
states,
him?
by the way.
All right. Okay, go ahead, Ren.
All of them. Remember, he said that.
Ballot harvesting, non-resident voters, fake ballots, stuffing the ballot box, votes for pay, roughed up Republican poll watchers, and sometimes even more votes than people voting took place in Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and elsewhere. In all swing state cases, there are far more votes than are necessary to win the states and the election itself. Therefore, votes cannot be certified. This election is under protest.
So he's gone full Karen now, is basically what has happened here.
Hope to God he doesn't try to go speak to the manager because he is the manager.
He is the fucking
So wait,
manager.
there are far more votes than are necessary. What is his claim that the votes?
Okay,
cannot
first
be
of all,
certified?
all right. There is no factual claim. It's not up. This is literally not up to him. It's up to everyone else that's not him. But first of all, the cities that he named: Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. All those cities have something in common. I wonder what it could be.
Can I take a wild stab in the dark, please?
I think it's because those are all majority black cities.
I was about to say.
Oh.
Well,
I mean-
it would be not surprising, all things considered. Trump has been a racist in the past. Doesn't want black people on his properties. Thinks Central Park 5 should be executed.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's like, so wait, there were fraud in those cities, but not in Tucson, Arizona, not in Las Vegas, Nevada.
By the way, didn't those guys also vote blue?
Yeah.
Mostly,
Like,
yes.
And he didn't even bring them up. He just specifically,
Or-
instead of going after all the districts that voted for Biden disproportionately in his mind, more than likely, he only wants to talk about the districts that had predominantly black people.
Yes, the cities, not even the districts, just the cities.
Just the
That-
cities.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about him.
So that's not racist because it's just coincidence that all those cities are majority black, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that that's just a complete coincidence here, but
Like he just unintentionally did not bring up Arizona, or Nevada or anything.
yeah, I mean,
the
so-
actual swing places.
yeah, but also the whole thing here, he talks about how prisoners are voting. Florida actually made it legal for prisoners to cast ballots in 2018, and that state went for Trump. So
And not only that, it was enacted not by Democrats, but I bet this was done. Is Florida mostly a Republican legislator?
Yes, we talked about
So
this.
basically, this wasn't a Democratic thing. This was something done with a Republican legislation under a Republican governor. Mm-hmm. Nice bashing of your own kind, Trump fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but honestly, that is what Don believes. That's what the true believers believe. I mean, Scarlett actually posted something in the chat here. A poll by CBS News said that they asked the question, were Republicans the legitimate winners of the House and Senate seats they won? 98% of Trump voters say yes. So it's like, okay, wait, hold on. So the Democrats rigged the presidential election, but they didn't, not the down ballot races that would have given them complete control of Congress.
But they're all done on one vote, though. They're all done on one vote. You don't just go bit by bit by bit. They're all done in one place.
There's only one situation where this bears plausibility, and it's just the fact that all they wanted was Trump gone. They didn't care about getting Congress for some reason. I couldn't see the motivation of the entire DNC not going, oh, we got an opportunity to win it all, Pelosi. Fucking...
Yeah, because...
And look, she goes, no, we're not going to do that.
Because, look, Biden might have won, but if this was a rigged election, we wouldn't still have Jim Jordan or Lindsey Graham or Susan Collins or Mitch McConnell still in their positions.
There would not be a runoff in Georgia.
What's going to be beautiful is you guys are going to cost them the runoff, and then you're going to claim that was because of Democrats, aren't you?
Yep. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, you should have voted then, you halfwit.
I can already predict this from a mile away. I will be astonished if they don't. I will actually say, wow, somebody has a brain.
And now, here's the thing about supposedly more votes than there are registered voters. You may have gotten something fucked up. We had, in a normal election, we don't even have that much of high turnout because a lot of us, either we can't vote on election day, or we can't even do it absentee, or we just didn't even bother with it at all because what the fuck's the point? But
I will say, this year, the previous primary actually had a pretty large turnout too. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
This was a growing trend. I think coronavirus was just the push people needed to be like, yeah, fuck it, we're all just voting in mass.
And not only that, there was a lot more riding on this election because if we kept Trump in office, the coronavirus and all the things that Trump has done
he would continue
to
do nothing about it or tell us we cured it, even though people are still getting sick.
Yeah. And he'll probably still take credit for the Pfizer virus or whatever.
The Pfizer vaccine.
Sorry.
The Pfizer
virus. No.
I'm sorry.
That's the plot twist.
He's probably still thinking Pfizer is a virus because it's in New York State, and he hates New York State with all. Well,
actually, Pfizer is producing the virus here in my home state of Michigan, and the first trucks with it rolled out today.
No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't explain vaccines to members of my family that called the vaccine dangerous. It's like, why would you inject yourself with coronavirus?
It's a weakened form, so that way your body can actually.
This is
not know what a vaccine does.
Actually, this is a very intelligent vaccine. It doesn't have the virus at all. What it has actually is the protein. This is
the vaccine then?
So this is a very, very experimental type of vaccine that this is different. Right? No, that's the other one. The Moderna one's the T-cell virus, which incidentally created the Resident Evil zombies. So just be mindful of that.
Okay, but forget that. I don't want SARS in my neighborhood.
Yeah, the Pfizer virus, though. The Pfizer virus is actually it's an experimental type of vaccine that's actually really cool. What it does is that it doesn't have the virus itself, but it has the protein spike from the virus that your body can then use to kind of generate the antibody. So it doesn't give you the virus. It says, okay, if you come across the virus, this is what it's going to have, and so you can develop the antibodies to protect yourself from it.
It's essentially a reverse coronavirus.
Something like that. Now, there is still a question, of course, of side effects and how long does it last and so on and so forth.
That's why they're doing human trials.
Well, they did the trials. Then there's like, okay, we think we got something that's good to go, and it's rolling out right now. Like the vaccine is going out to people right now.
So what we know is people took these vaccines and they did not die.
Yes.
So,
And
took the
it's
vac-
proven. And it's proven.
Did they actually report what the potential side effects for this thing were, or has it?
Yeah, they have.
Long
Like from
enough?
my understanding, it's basically like it's like a headache or stuffy nose. It's basically like cold-like symptoms,
Seriously.
like which is
Seriously,
it's
just flu symptoms.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
which is it's no picnic, but it's not bad. Like you're not going to
That's
turn it. You're
at least-
probably
that's
not
a-
going to turn into a zombie.
That's an amazing payoff. Cure the coronavirus just for a small bout of the flu.
It's better to just deal with something as similar as just a stuffy nose or a cough instead of being stuck at
Well, you know-
ICU with tubes down your throat,
Yeah.
almost
Or
on the
common cold.
brink of death. It's a very great trade-off, from what I understand.
Like every drug has opportunity, like has a consequence or a cost, because
Yeah.
like de facto what you're doing is putting a type of poison in your body that's designed to do something your body can't naturally do. And that will always have consequences, by the way. When you make your body overproduce antibodies, when you make your heart beat faster, when you make your muscle mass expand beyond its intended fixture,
Or if your body
That,
temperature is running
like-
way too high.
just a no-brainer. The limitations of your body will say, well, there's a tax for that. like
Yeah.
you can do it, but here's the tax. Here's the bill. Oh, instant heart attack? Fuck.
Or I'm about to go into some of the other strange like side effects of trying to like have your body do the work, do the more
I mean,
taxing
what,
stuff.
they had like those experimental military steroids, and I think they said it actually fucked with your muscular vascular system.
What, does
like
it
it-
shrivel up your dick or something?
No. The experimental military drugs that would physically enhance your entire body.
This isn't the gay bomb, is it?
No, not the gay bomb. The gay bomb. What the fuck?
What does
Yeah,
it
that-
actually do? Have you learned
Why would
about?
we make a bomb that's just designed to make people gay? I don't understand the motivation.
Oh,
all-
yeah. Buy a bunch of estrogen pills, crush them all up.
More
Drop
importantly,
pheromones.
why is that so fucking evil? It's just like, yeah, you want dick. Like, that's what this bomb does.
Well, it's because the bomb was meant to be dropped on Islamic extremists,
Oh, so that way it'll just turn to penis
Wow.
instead of blowing up buildings.
or
No, I
just
think it's-
kind of
I think it's just so they'll kill like millions of their own and even the playing field. Like,
yeah, basically.
Huh.
their own religion would basically turn on them and eat them.
Yeah, and I want to remind our listeners that we're not bullshitting here. The gay bomb was something that was actually studied by the
Yeah,
U.S.
like-
military.
Yeah, like this was one of those times Alex Jones wasn't completely incorrect. Mm-hmm. Like
So
the
the
chemicals
friggin'
in the water
frogs-
thing wasn't completely incorrect. The gay bomb wasn't completely incorrect. That doesn't mean he's a genius. It just means he read the right source.
Yeah, once
but
in
anyway.
a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about one more thing that got added to the list here before we started up, and we discussed it in the pre-show crosstalk. There's a couple executions that we had recently, and this was an execution that was done. Was it done in Indiana, Gonzo?
Yeah, it was. It happened here in the state of Indiana because the Terre Haute Federal Correctional Facility, I believe, still does death executions. And one of the major ones ended up getting a little online movement because one of the
I do.
what now?
So I think that people actually appealed to Trump to stop this one.
Well, they try to do all sorts of places so that way they could commute the death sentence, but unfortunately, no. Where is that fucking name? Where are you? I know I put you in here somewhere. There you are. All right. This is a guy by the name of oh shit, I lost you again. God damn it. Brandon Bernard. He was put here in Terre Haute's Federal Correctional Center. He was an accomplice to a murder that happened within a gang, decided to take out 2 youth ministers in Texas in 1999. Bernard didn't pull the trigger. He basically was told by his gang members, scuffle up with the evidence so that way we don't get caught. Unfortunately, I did it. And Bernard
that might
was
work out.
sadly sentenced ever since. And one of the rushed Trump field executions basically happened with him. He was executed last week, and but the thing is, though, people wanted to commute his sentence because the guy didn't even do much. He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't try to mutilate bodies. He basically was tampering with the evidence, which is a little bit minor, still serious, but minor.
It's a big no-no. It could get you a life sentence, but not death.
Yeah.
Well, apparently
but
it does.
But unfortunately, no,
apparently it
that
does
didn't
get
happen.
you death. We just set that precedent, by the way.
That didn't happen.
You tamper with evidence, they're gonna fucking kill you. Like, don't do it.
Yeah, he basically been put to sentence. He basically been sat there for like 18 or so years. The guy was convicted by a mostly white jury, and was just he was even afraid about this shit. Mr. Bernard is, because admittedly he was black, and so has probably some of the ones that Trump has put to execution, or at least streamlined the execution before he leaves office next month. Which ended up...
Why are y'all trying to make this about race? Like, fucking, why the fuck isn't Dylan Ruth dead yet?
Yes, people have brought this up too, and we brought this up...
Why is he not dead yet?
Remember, a little bit of a recap too, because I'm also wanting to bring this other person in as well, because we talked about this on the pre-show too. Dylan Ruth, somewhere in 2015, he went into the very Charleston church that took him under their wing, shot him up. 9 people are dead. Had a complete manifesto and another book thing that he wrote, all under the name of white supremacy. And the cops eerily handled him well. There wasn't a scuffle. There wasn't trying to shoot him. It was eerily peaceful. In fact, there was so peaceful, there was an allegation that's been brought up that during the transport to prison, the cops drove him to Burger King and gave him a meal. But unfortunately, we couldn't even determine any sort of solid fact to that, so it's a rumor, though. And also, let's bring up the fact about Charles Manson for a moment. The most psychotic cultist hippie to ever grace the United States. He died of old age because of a bunch of red tape about California's death penalty, which, if Helios's research is true, they kind of had one, but there was a lot of red tape confusing that kind of stuff.
Okay, so let me just kind of explain what happened with the Manson case. Okay, so in 1971, Manson was sentenced to death. And at the time, California did not have a life with parole sentencing. It was really, that was just it, is that if you were convicted of a capital crime, you were getting sentenced to death. That was the end of it. Well, 1972 comes around, and there is a case that gets argued before the California Supreme Court that argues that the death penalty was cruel and unusual punishment, and which has often been cited as one of the biggest critiques of the death penalty, is that it violates no cruel, unusual punishment, as I believe guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment, I believe.
So just putting someone to death, no matter how you do it, is cruel. And
the Eighth Amendment here, the Eighth Amendment states excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Some would argue that the death penalty falls under that. That's been one of the biggest critiques of the death penalty over the years. So in 1972, that argument was made in front of the California Supreme Court. They agreed, and they suspended the death penalty. Then, now, for what it's worth, that fall, the California, in the election that fall, 1972, the people of California voted to reinstate the death penalty, actually, as part of a referendum. However, that couldn't happen because of another case down in Georgia, which went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they found that in Georgia, death penalties were being given out disproportionately to black people, and it violated due process. And the Supreme Court also found that there really wasn't any state in the country that actually met their standards for ensuring due process when it came to handing out the death penalties. So the Supreme Court said, okay, here's what we're going to do. No one is carrying out the death penalty until everyone can meet these standards. And so from there was a process where all the states had to figure out how they were going to meet the standards as set by the Supreme Court. The end result was that executions did not resume until 1976. In California, they didn't resume until 1978. And by that time, life with parole was now available for people. And so ultimately, Manson and his people settled for life with parole. And a lot of people were... No, with parole. Life with parole.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, that a lot of people were very concerned that he was going to get out, but Manson never took any of his parole hearings that seriously. Like, he started singing at one of them, so he doesn't want to leave. Like, he's content to die in jail. But that's the reason that Manson isn't executed. Now, as far as Dylan Roof is concerned, it's a case where it's just a matter of the fact that he's just waiting. He's waiting his turn on death row. Okay, so Dylan Roof is currently incarcerated at U.S. Penitentiary Terre Haute, which is in Indiana.
We pronounce it Terre Haute here.
Terre Haute, whatever.
Yes.
Well, I'm not from Indiana, so yeah.
But I gotcha, though.
Yeah, so that's where he's currently locked up. This is the site where the federal government will carry out death penalties. Understand this: Dylan Roof has not been sentenced to death under the law of South Carolina. It was federal law that sentenced him to death. So there are currently 52 inmates on federal death row, and the vast majority of them, 46, are at Terre Haute. And so, if I could see when actually Dylan Roof's number is due to come up. I don't know if they've set it yet. His middle name is Storm. Wow, that's something.
Yeah, he calls himself Dylan Storm Roof or whatever, and it's kind of weird. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know off the chance of my head if they've set a date for his execution. Let me see if they Roof execution.
I don't even know about if they ended up setting dates for any of the others, including Mr. Brandon Bernard. But
yeah, I just want to point out, like, I have no clue why this happened. But yeah, they commuted the death sentence of a guy who really hadn't done anything that major in regards to the murders that had been committed.
We wish that Brandon Bernard would be commuted.
Before people say, "Oh well, if we don't give the death penalty for that, then there's no consequences, nothing to deter people from tampering with evidence." Life in prison is still pretty fucking hefty.
All right, and yeah. By the way, I just want to let me just go over some of the people that are currently on death row. We have a guy, for example, the oldest living guy, I believe, on death row is a fellow by the name of Ronald Mikos. He was born all the way back in 1948. This guy was sentenced to death in 2005. He was a podiatrist who was convicted of killing a former patient to stop her from testifying in an investigation of a Medicare fraud scheme. So, the next oldest guy is Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. He's 67. He was convicted in 2006 of interstate kidnapping resulting in death in connection with the 2003 kidnapping, sexual assault, and fatal stabbing of Drew Sogin. And let's see, who else we got here? There's also Gary Lee Simpson, who was carjacked and murdered 3 people in 2001. He's actually been sentenced to death twice, both in 2003 and in 2017. Joseph Edward Duncan III, serial child molester and rapist, sentenced to death in 2005 for a quadruple murder in Idaho. Let's see who else is on here. I believe the Boston Marathon bomber is also on death row. I can't remember if he is or he isn't.
He supposedly is. He's been sent over here.
Oh, yeah.
But I bet you they're still trying to figure out when to execute him.
Yeah, so the reason why these people haven't been executed yet, it's mostly just... and like I said, there's a whole bunch of people on here. There's quite a few people here who are on death row just because they killed an inmate. We do have like a... I'm assuming
it's how they killed the inmate.
Well, I think just murdering an inmate in general is pretty It's a pretty serious.
Yeah, but like imagine like one guy just stabs a dude with a toothbrush versus another guy decapitates a dude and tries to flush his head down the toilet. These are two different murders. I think we can agree.
But yeah, so the point being is that so there's a variety of people here who are on death row. A lot of people here on multiple murders. The general rule is that double murder or higher is instant death sentence. When it comes to individual murder, it's a matter of how severe the crime was, but it's usually a pretty hefty sentence. You might be looking at life in prison.
So literally, if you slaughter a large crowd of people, that's probably death row for you.
Oh, absolutely. Now, so yeah, mass shooters, if you're a mass shooter, you're probably going on death row.
Randy Stair, if he hadn't killed himself, would have been on death row.
Yeah, about to say, if the Columbine kids had not blown their own brains out after all was said and done, they would both be on death row right now.
I think they knew that. So like,
Probably.
Yeah, they certainly
they killed themselves, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, understand this, that what I just listed, the inmates I just listed to you are people that are on death row per the federal government. Okay, so this isn't a case where it's like, here in Michigan, there's no death penalty. So you get sentenced to life in prison. But that's only if you're charged on a state level. If you commit a federal crime in Michigan, then you're going to death row if they decide that you need to go to death row. Like Timothy McVeigh was the last person, I believe, to be federally executed under... Was it the last? No, I'm sorry, yeah. Actually, the last person to be executed under the federal level was 2 days ago, actually. It wasn't Brandon Bernard. He was... Also, by the way, he was sentenced 20 years ago, so yeah. He also, by the way, his co-defendant was also executed for the same crime. But the last person who, but the day after, the guy who was executed was Alfred Bourgeois, and he was convicted of abusing and sexually molesting and murdering his 2-year-old daughter at Corpus Christi Naval Air Station. So...
But
that guy's like really fucked up. Yeah,
that's a different matter than just tampering with the evidence per your orders of the gang.
And then death penalty. Like
yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
That's the main argument that people have been trying to make in the case of Mr. Bernard. I mean, he only basically
was Bernard was the guy that committed the murder?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So
sent to death row.
Okay, well here's the thing. So the actual case is, here's how it goes. So it happened on June 21st, 1999. Bernard, who was 18 at the time, along with Christopher Villalva, who was 19, he was also executed. And their accomplices, 15-year-old Terry Brown, 15-year-old Christopher Lewis, and 16-year-old Tony Spark, they approached two youth pastors, Todd and Stacy Bagley, and asked them for a ride at the gas station with plans to rob them. They agreed to give them a ride. Villalva then held the couple at gunpoint and forced them into the trunk. While in the trunk for several hours driving around, they spoke through an opening in the backseat and urged them to accept Jesus into their hearts and spare their lives. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. The perpetrators robbed the Bagleys using the ATM card to withdraw cash, stealing money, jewelry, and they wanted to pawn Stacy's wedding ring. They then pulled to the side of the road and poured lighter fluid inside the vehicle while the Bagleys saying, "Jesus loves us." Villalva then shot both of the Bagleys in the head, killing Todd instantly. Bernard then actually set the cart on fire, and according to Stacy's autopsy report, she died of smoke inhalation. So
Bernard, not fully innocent here.
No.
He wasn't fully clear, but...
I don't know. It kind of seems like Bernard did a lot more than try to cover up the evidence.
Well, okay, so... the crimes took place... Well, first of all, there's two reasons why he got on death row. The first of all was that the crime took place at Fort Hood. So that's why it was a federal crime, because instead of state level court. And number two, he was an adult. He was 18 years old, so he was tried as an adult. If he, like everyone else listed here, Terry Brown, Christopher Lewis, Tony Spark, they were all under 18. They could not be tried as adults. Now, there was a lot of controversy. Now, again, there was a lot of controversy about whether or not he should be sentenced to death. Okay, so Bernard's legal team, they filed appeals on the basis that his prosecutor withheld information that he was a low-level gang member, which made him unlikely to be a future offender. And this actually convinced 5 out of the 9 living jurors who convicted Bernard that he shouldn't have been executed. So of the 9 living people who were still around that sense of that, 5 of them were like, you know what, maybe he shouldn't be executed. And some of them did advocate that his sentence should be commuted. For what it's worth, by the way, his final words were that he was sorry to the couple he murdered, cited those words as the only words that I can say that completely capture how I feel now and how I felt that day. And those were his final words. But yeah, so he wasn't just convicted for evidence tampering. The actual charges were 2 counts of murder. And if you're gonna get 2 counts of murder, then that's that, and it's a federal crime, then that's gonna be a death sentence. But yeah, in this particular instance, there is a lot to say that even though what this guy did was horrible, obviously it can't be defended.
The thing that bothers me was we went into this kind of lying. We weren't telling the full truth as to why this man got the death penalty.
Well,
and it kind of seems like the public's not either.
Well, it sounds like, it's like, okay, yeah, the guy did it, but I think the argument isn't that, why isn't this good enough for, like, life imprisonment? You know, why is it going to be a death penalty? You know, why necessarily a death penalty?
Why is 2 murders enough for a death penalty? I'm not.
Well, that's the case.
It wasn't
facetious.
That's not facetious.
Well, that's not the case.
So,
like, it wasn't necessarily a double murder. It was just 2 counts. It was 2 counts of murder. I don't know what the hell those counts were,
2
but
counts of murder. What's the difference between a double murder and 2?
Well,
counts of murder?
Double murder is where you actually kill 2 people. Okay, double murder is where you kill 2 people. 2 counts is just, okay, murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree. Like, you're convicted in both counts of murder.
It's got to be on the same level of degree
So he only
of
killed
murder,
one
right?
person, but he killed them by 2 degrees.
Yeah, basically, he was convicted for 2 degrees of the same murder. And I think, honestly, the fact that the autopsy said the woman died of smoke inhalation, so she didn't die from the gunshot wound, and the fact that he set the car on fire, that technically makes him a murderer in that sense. Like, yeah. I agree it's a technicality, and I'm not saying that the woman wouldn't have died from getting shot in the head, but just that fact alone, like, the autopsy comes back and says, okay, she died of smoke inhalation, so that means technically
Bernard killed her.
Yeah, Bernard killed her. And again, for what it's worth, Christopher Villalba was also executed for the same crime. So they're both dead.
So, in a way, it's kind of bittersweet because neither party got off for this.
No.
Like,
I haven't heard anyone
right now we're asking the question of whether this warrants the death penalty.
Absolutely. Like, there's a question of, was this warranting to the death penalty?
What is the evidence that this was racially driven then? Just because they were black?
That's probably the mindset that people have.
Yeah, because as I cited,
that seems extraordinarily toxic, because unless you have, like, more, that means every single time a black guy is tried, there has to be prejudice at play.
To a degree, because here's the thing, we try to get the sentence commuted. A lot of people have tried to, but unfortunately, everybody got it rejected.
Maybe they were just really fucking mad about what happened. I don't fucking know.
I don't know, honestly, because
I'm just thinking, like, think about that. Think about, like, oh yes, every time a black person is involved in this, well, there's gotta be something regarding racism. I know.
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you really think all black people are all just about their race all the time?
That's my thing. The way this murder is described, these people were shot in the head mercilessly, and then if one hadn't died from smoke inhalation, she would have been burnt alive.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of fucked.
It is.
So, we can't really take this whole thing lightly, right? These are serious things we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Maybe the state was just pissed.
But this happened in Texas. But the execution was done here in my state. I don't think there is any sort of personal connection.
Yeah, that's one thing to remember, Sharp, is that this is not a case of Texas deciding we're going to kill this guy. This was like a federal crime. This is the U.S. government deciding to kill this person.
So, why? Yeah, so now we have to ask the question, why did the U.S. government want to kill these two so bad?
Well, the other part of it is that this happened during Trump's lame duck session. And usually when a president is a lame duck, it's not unheard of for them to commute the sentences of people on death row. It's kind of like a last...
It could just be a contrived coincidence that they were commuted. No personal motivation whatsoever other than just commuting the death sentences.
Well, when I say commute, I mean they get off. Like, commute is to, like, say, okay, you're not going to get put to death. You're fine. You're good. You're okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I think it was a case. It's half of a case where, hey, Trump, here's your chance to, like, maybe for once not be a dick, and, well, he was, and half because this guy doesn't deserve to die.
Commuting the death sentence does not mean you get off scot-free, right?
No, you're still in prison. You're still in prison.
You just don't get
going
executed.
back to jail. You're just
it's kind of like Roger Stone. Okay, it's kind of like Roger Stone. Like, his sentence was commuted.
Okay, so it's like a plea of I'm going to see mercy, basically.
So something like that. It's basically, it acknowledges that you, in the eyes of the law, you're technically a convicted felon, but you no longer have to serve out your sentence. So Roger Stone doesn't have to be in jail anymore, but in the eyes of the law, he is still a convicted felon. That's basically what it means to commute a sentence.
So if they had gotten off on the death sentence, they probably would have been allowed to leave, but they would be a
not necessarily. They just wouldn't have been. If your death row if generally speaking, if you're on death row and your death sentence is commuted, you usually just go life in prison. Like it's very difficult to go from death row.
So we weren't even pleading for anything that much better. We were like going, all right,
yeah, because
don't kill him, just let him rot in fucking jail.
Yeah, because usually when you get a death sentence, a life sentence usually attached to that. Like Dylan Roof right now, to go back to Dylan Roof, he is trying to appeal his death sentence conviction and get himself life with parole instead.
Yeah, so fucking, let's put it this way, right? The quote-unquote merciful people in this situation, the people that were too soft, are just like, I want him to rot in jail. I want him to stick to the walls. That's essentially what they were saying in comparison to, I don't want the death penalty.
Well, here's the thing, though. If
too fucking soft, I want him to rot in jail.
Well, here's the thing. If this death sentence will be commuted, there's an argument that I'm going to try to present, and it's probably not going to be in the best interest because I don't know it. If Brendan Bernard, his death sentence was commuted, and he goes for life with parole instead, there is a possibility that if he's on good behavior, and if he behaves during his parole hearings, he could go out of jail, but he'll still be, as you said, he'll still be convicted in the eyes of the law
for 2 counts of murder.
Yeah. I mean, so I doubt that if he was
just saying he won't have a great life outside of jail either.
Probably not. Like, I think that's part of the reason why Charles Manson had no real interest in like actually leaving jail.
His life was basically just done. He didn't really care whether they killed him or not. They caught him.
He was that insane though. So
yeah, he was also kind of nuts. All right, so now let's kind of go ahead and end the show on a relatively light note here by taking a look at some of the, like I said, it's a new segment we're building here where we're basically looking at the accounts on Twitter of people that go on sites like Parlor and the Donald's relocation stuff, so we don't have to, and they give us like the best of the crazies, or just people just lacking any self-awareness. So let me pull up Parlor Takes here and at Coping MAGA as well. Let's start off with a tweet, actually, from the Coping MAGA account. This comes from at PS_Patriot. The full title, by the way, is called Pot Smoking Patriot. And I think they might have been on pot when they tweeted this out. I'd rather have martial law under Trump than these fucked up Rona rules and restrictions.
Fucked up what rules?
They would rather have martial law than a lockdown.
Okay, so there is something complicated here. In most cases, there are actually a lot of states that have no employment as of right now. There are the essential workers, and that's it. I was watching like this old Italian guy comedian, Vic, and he brought up a case about media like sugarcoating serious things. one thing he was talking about was how they are defining starvation and going completely broke as food insecurity and financial instability.
Yeah, a nice little
And
word.
he said,
Kinda like,
and he said, and I quote, "Why don't you just call it, I am getting completely fucked and the government won't help and I'm running out of time to help myself and my family."
it's just, it's nice that they try to sugarcoat it with different words, much like as we said with Bush Senior, who if you could correct me, he said no new taxes, right? Read my lips, no new taxes, but he ended up saying he decided to repackage it as revenue enhancers, I believe. Am I right?
And here's what I think has people so up in arms about the lockdown, right? There is a good chunk of people right now who are not going to be able to fucking eat if those relief checks don't go through.
And guess what? They're not. As I told you, they're not coming through. That's not happening.
The relief bills are
so
still stalled.
So, and this is where it gets complicated, right? Who are they going to be mad at immediately? The people who shut down the state, or the people that won't let the checks go through? The first people they'll be mad at before they switch priorities.
Absolutely. And McConnell knows this. Here, let me give you all a kind of a preview of like the next couple of years. So, McConnell, and it's especially if they're able to hang on to the majority, McConnell and the Senate Republicans are going to try everything they can to completely fuck over Biden by just denying and obstructing every possible way. Okay, because Mitch McConnell, he is not a guy who wakes up in the morning and thinks, gee whiz, I'm fucking over the United States of America. I should really change my ways. He's a guy who says, I'm fucking over the United States of America. Yeehaw! Let's keep going. I mean,
as long as my business partners benefit the coronavirus, I should be all right.
As long as we keep the majority.
That's what Katie Porter is thinking right now. She ended up putting a video that's directly blaming Mitch McConnell for this because he's more in the interest of the business. You know, the top 1% of the people than the rest of us.
Literally over and over and over again, this check has been delayed, stopped, halted, denied, because it's not enough money going towards the big corporations.
And there's also another reason that has been reported. Mitch McConnell does not want to give aid to the state level.
By the way, I am not talking about your local factory you work at. I'm not talking about the Piggly Wiggly you work at. I'm not talking about the gas station you work at. I'm talking about, this wasn't a large enough release package for Amazon, for fucking for fucking Ford, GM,
the cruise ships, because we all know they need a bear.
Not enough of a release package for Disney World, like fucking.
Yeah, because who else is going to be helping us keep food on the table? Like an amusement park that just is fucking expensive.
The amount of money we're hemorrhaging, those corporations piss that kind of money a day. Like, it's nothing to them. In fact, if you, like, most people argue, the companies that are worth billions of dollars, if you left well enough alone, did not give them anything, they would prevail throughout the entirety of this pandemic. We wouldn't need to help them at all. We just do it for really dumb reasons. Like I want to point out, we're helping the people who have already made it versus the people who are struggling. Mm-hmm. That's how I want to frame this. These people already made it. They could buy and sell you if they wanted to, and we're prioritizing them.
Instead of, the people who you use to pretty much step over and get that nice little, a nice mansion, the yacht, the expensive cars, the hot trophy wife.
I'm not talking about your local state factory. I'm probably not even talking about your local state coal mine at this point. I'm probably not even talking about that anymore.
Yeah, for which ones exist.
I don't think they're worth half the money like oil's worth right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they'd probably be considered a small business, ironically enough. So, like, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not talking about gas stations. I I could be talking about the car dealership you work for, depending on who it is.
Or hell, the
Or I could
company.
be talking about major manufacturers who treat their workers like shit anyways. Like, just...
Okay, so
Back to
this is
next.
one. All right, so yeah, go to the Parlor Takes here. This was a Parlor Take I posted in our group chat yesterday. This is I saw this and I loved it. This comes from Rep Elon on Parlor. It is not Elon Omar. She did not write this, but she later captioned it saying that she wished she did. The take is, Trump must be a socialist the way he keeps getting publicly owned.
Nah. Nah, that wouldn't make him a socialist. That would kind of make him a prostitute.
You know, I just thought about something, right? Relief package for the big corporations.
Yes.
Despite how much you want Republicans in the Trump administration to go after big corporations, they did not exclude Google. They did not exclude Facebook. They did not exclude Twitter, the biggest grossing corporations, from this corporate relief package, by the way. Mm-hmm. So they're really saying, hey, you know, we kind of feel like you're fucking us over in regards to search results and all the information and stuff we're trying to spread and how we're trying to talk to each other back and forth, or even our own political rhetoric. Here's $1 billion. Like, wrap that one around your head. Your guys just said, yeah, go ahead and give those companies money.
Yeah, because that's what.
Like, let's phrase it in a standard you hate. Big tech was being offered billions while you were being offered peanuts, and then they wanted to decrease the size of those peanuts you were being offered.
They just want to take away your peanuts because they're starving over there with their possibly large ass food refrigerators and shit.
I don't have enough
Walk-in
golden guava
refrigerators.
bread. If I don't have enough golden guava bread, I won't support the United States anymore.
Listen to me. I decide everything. You don't exist. I can't hear you.
Listen to me. My diamond mines in Africa do not have enough starving African children mining diamonds. I want more.
Listen. Your starving African children mine is nothing to my starving African children cobalt mine. It's a lot.
Look, my Vietnamese general is scaling back on how harshly they whip Vietnamese children to make cheap shoes for the Americans.
Listen here,
I need them to whip harder. I need them to execute mothers in front of families. They need to be motivated.
No. You don't understand. My Bali sweatshops are way too lenient now.
Oh my lord! Have they gone down to 3 public executions a day instead of 4?
I wanted it to be 5.
4's a good compromise, though. It's a good
4.
deal. Don't pass on 4. What if they bump it down to 2? What will you do then?
Then it will be chaos, I tell you.
All right. Let's move on.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Let's move on here before we get demonetized. So this next up, go back to our friends over at Parlor Takes. We got some reactions here on Parlor to Trump's announcement that the vaccine is now rolling out. No thanks to you, Don. This is from Creddy on Parlor. I can't wait to be injected with the number of the beast 666. This is from Debbie on Parlor. I ain't taking no vaccine, and Trump should know about that vaccine. It's going to change people's DNA. Don't push that vaccine, Mr. President. It's harmful, not helpful. That's why Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates are trying to get at least 80% vaccinated so they can control them. Dr. Fauci is a fraud. Bill Gates is trying to depopulate the world.
Just imagine Bill Gates shaking hands with Anthony Fauci.
About to say, Bill Gates is trying to depopulate the world. I'd argue the virus is already doing that.
The virus
nearly
is already
300,000.
depopulating the world. Don't you think that Bill Gates would want the virus to spread more?
Yeah. It's like in Deus, I remember correctly, in Deus Ex, the Illuminati didn't try to vaccinate people against the Grey Death. They tried to spread whatever the fuck that disease was in the first Deus Ex game. There's like
you know what would have been genius? Like, I haven't seen the Deus Ex story, but if you like proposed a vaccine and it's actually just a way to spread that same virus.
Actually, that was the plot of the original Rainbow Six novel, which is the
See, that's even more genius though. You convince people the medicine they're taking, which is spreading the virus, isn't the virus.
So yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the Rainbow Six initially started out as a legit Tom Clancy novel, and in the novel, the plot is that this biotech company plots to kill the entire world by spreading a genetically modified version of the Ebola virus, and so they spread it at.
So, like, when it comes to plot holes and storylines, right? What was the biotech company's motivation for killing that many people?
Oh, they're a bunch of tree huggers.
Oh God.
So quite literally, just because they were so goddamn angry, we were killing the environment they wanted to kill.
Yes,
we are the virus.
That's you know what's actually ironic? That's not a. The thing that is funny is the thing that does hurt, that is hard to admit, is when it comes to a plan for global annihilation, a left-winger is probably more than likely to carry it out. Like,
depends on the plan, yeah. But yeah, so that was literally, that was the plan, is that they were going to spread this modified version of Ebola, and then they were going to say, hey, we got this fancy schmancy vaccine. Little did they know they actually made two vaccines. They had the secret vaccine, which they used for themselves to actually work against the virus, and then they had the fake vaccine, which literally just spread the virus to everybody else and would kill everybody. And now I've convinced everybody to not take the COVID vaccine. But whatever, so that's the kind of mindset these people are having. Anyway, moving on to the next take here. This comes from Rosie Eds Keat on Parlor. If I do not want to get the COVID vaccine, no government will make me. There are HIPAA privacy laws. I don't think you know how that works there, buddy. And finally, from just someone named Miss, a fast no on the tracking vaccine.
I have to stop you there, like with that previous one. HIPAA, right?
Yeah.
Having your medical information, even if they had your medical information, that doesn't mean they could make you take the vaccine.
No, they can't.
Like, not having your medical information has nothing to do with that.
I mean, in theory, they could, but it would, like, it's kind of like we talk about here.
What are they going to do? Inject you with it while you're donating blood? Like, what?
Well, it's like...
Figure out you're going to need, like, fucking laxatives because apparently you have a fucking
vaccine in your laxatives.
Oh God, yeah.
Or at least use your medical information to like fucking just pull some advertisements onto your shit.
I have virus curing shit now.
I have the shit of the virus. Yes.
No, God. Like, it's the thing, there is one thing that is fundamentally correct. There is no way the government can practically make everyone take the vaccine. We do have to do that part willingly. Boy, that's going to be an uphill battle.
It's why that it's unfortunate that we can't really force it, but it's just that we have to beg people to actually do their part. It's why Biden wants to ask the people to wear a mask for 100 days. Yeah. And hope that we could curb this virus before we can get the vaccine, a little bit while we get the vaccine out, instead of a federal level mask mandate or shit like that.
I already brought this up before, but if he wants to win the public's confidence over, he has to take it himself in front of everybody.
I think he said he will. I think I heard him say that he will, and that I think I heard that
so
both Bush 43 and
I will be the first one to take it. Like,
I think Bush 43 and Obama also said they will as well.
Holy shit, Bush 43 and Obama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said that.
Not just our president, but the Republican quote unquote war hawk president in the eyes of like other Democrats. And Obama, the love-hate guy with the Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they both said that. Yeah, sign us up. We'll take it.
That's actually more than I demanded. That might work.
It should, and we're hoping it is, because that is pretty much as about as bipartisan as you can get. But with asking people, hey, if you could help do your part, you could be able to curb this virus, and we don't have to put up with like faking it's not real.
Well, you got to put it into perspective, right? The delusional portion of the masses literally think that this is poison people are asking them to inject into their bloodstreams.
Yeah.
So from the outward perspective, when this happens, you just watched Biden Obama, and George Bush all inject themselves with poison in front of you. Like,
Okay,
that's
so
confidence building if ever I've thought of anything.
all right, so since I mentioned Roger Stone, we have a parlay from Roger Stone here. This kind of goes back to the how we opened the show with the Republican Party kind of devouring itself. Roger Stone parlays. Where is Marco indeed? A growing number of Florida Republicans are urging me to challenge Marco Rubio in the Republican primary. I am far more likely to make the race against Rick Scott because he's never been held accountable for his theft of $1 billion from Medicaid. As President Trump would say, let's see what happens. Hashtag Stone 2022. I mean...
Oh, Jesus. Is he going for a presidency?
Nah, he's gonna run for senator.
Oh, Jesus.
Marco against Widow Marco, who's probably next up. But, yeah, actually, there's another parlay here that, again, kind of reinforces the mindset that these guys have toward the GOP right now. So Kelly Loeffler is selling Trump is still my president shirts on Parlor, and the reaction is not entirely positive. Here's one user who says, "Dear Lord, haven't you learned your lesson? You got trolled ruthlessly for asking for money last week. Why don't you dip into your own funds and see if you could buy an election on your own?" Another one says, "I would prefer to get $1,200 for stimulus to help pay bills and Christmas gifts. I could use unemployment and help for food. $800 million in your bank account, and you're asking for contributions from regular folks, me in Georgia. I'll be writing in Trump's name for the Senate in Georgia. Kelly, send me some help."
That's the thing, too. I mean, Kelly Loeffler, she has a mansion. She owned a women's NBA team. Why does she need more money? Okay,
Yeah,
still. Why does she need money?
Well,
This is where it gets a little jankety, right? Everybody seems to fundamentally forget that, as bizarre as it is, the Trump sycophant side of things is still populist in its own eyes.
it is.
So like they and this is the portion, right? They criticize Democrats. They talk about the Democrats being the bad guys because in their minds, the Democratic Party are the rich socialist elite sipping champagne and laughing.
They're not
at
even
your
that
pain.
anymore. They're not even that anymore. Now they're the satanic, cannibalistic who are eating kids and selling them into sex slavery.
Yeah, like
Out
it
of the
gets
back
worse.
of a pizza parlor.
But the whole point is, like, these people do believe they are fighting the ultimate evil, and they truly and genuinely believe it. So
They do.
This doesn't just borderline on just being, like, evil, right? This borderlines on being insane.
Yes,
This
is
borderlines on being schizophrenic.
yeah.
Like,
We're now at the point now where this is like the earth is flat levels of insanity.
And
And
I
so is
do
your brain,
believe that
apparently.
almost every mental illness that can be chemically had through, like, birth and shit like that can be passed on through certain types of mental stress. Like, I believe there is a point you can reprogram your brain to the point that you are mentally ill. The thing that supports that is the fact that PTSD can both be hereditary and brought on by trauma.
Yeah.
Like,
And let's see.
and if things are true for one mental illness, why wouldn't they be true for, like, say, 12 or 13 others, right?
Anyway, so to kind of again go on to this more self-loathing toward their side, this next parlay from user CIELO says, "The police protecting Antifa, that proves the BS on a very deep level. F the blue." So much for back the blue.
Don't worry, they'll still say it.
Yeah, I know. I'm assuming that it's Brooklyn Boy. I'm assuming it's supposed to be Brooklyn Boy. Says, "Defund the Supreme Court of the United States." That's not how it works.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even fund the Supreme Court, I don't think. Like,
Yes.
There's no way, I don't think.
I don't even know if the Supreme Court has funding because it's just like a giant, like, limestone building with judges inside of it.
And I
Okay.
don't think they should be, or at least I hope they're not, bribable.
Yeah. So let's talk. Yeah,
I
so
don't
let's
I
talk.
don't think we pay for the Supreme Court. I think it's
We don't. We really don't.
I think it's like the SCOTUS judges still have their jobs as like justices, and that's what they're paid.
Well, no. What? Yeah, I'm about to say once you're a judge on SCOTUS, then you're on SCOTUS, and you handle the cases for each district. Like we our tax dollars don't fund the Supreme Court at all.
Yeah, so,
like that
doesn't
happen.
Where does SCOTUS's money come from then? Because obviously you still have to pay these people for doing their job, right?
Not necessarily. Like, just because you work in D.C. doesn't necessarily mean you get paid a whole lot. Like, the average paycheck for the average congressman is not exactly that great. I don't even know if SCOTUS judges earn a paycheck, to be quite honest with you.
Well,
but
that might also be kind of where we fucked up, though, because I think that's where people started worrying about like corporate donations and stuff like that swaying the opinion of politicians.
well, that was more of just
That
could be.
Because like,
so.
wow, I could be a dishonest fucking hack and just be a spokesperson for a corporation, and I'll make way more money than I can working for the people.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk.
It's a good fucking point, though.
Yeah. So let's do some Parlor Takes now on the secession. This one comes from the appropriately named Rebel Con Man. Rebel Com Man. It's COMMAN, not Con Man. But he says, let Texas succeed, as in success succeed, and 90% of the states will join them.
Let Texas win! I bet it's a football thing.
90% of the states would join Texas.
If they succeed. I'm sure he meant secede, but he typed succeed instead.
More importantly, okay, give me this estimate, Helios. What is 90% of 50?
40. Or something like that. It's in that range. Yeah.
No, what's retarded is it?
Actually, no way. I'm wrong. Like 90% of 50 would be 45. Would be 45.
What's retarded is it would be like like 4 point something or other, right? So, are they insinuating that only a tiny chunk of a state would also join that? Like,
I don't know. So, moving on. There's another take here. This one comes from Nelly Girl, who says, if the Democrats try to end the Electoral College, nearly every state, with the exception of California and New York, may succeed.
They really do not.
They don't know how to say secede, do they?
They don't.
It's
Here.
sad.
They don't know how. They don't have to know how to spell it. You could literally Google that, and it will show you the correctly spelled.
All right, so this
word.
one comes from Christopher, and he gets a little bit closer. Yes, can't trust federal elections. All red states should succeed. That's SUCEDE. So that's close, but it's not correct.
Yeah.
No,
And-
all red states should suck at it.
I just want to
God,
let
I don't
everybody know it's a stereotype to say that Trump supporters can't read. Don't.
All right, and finally, this one comes from Zand, who says, just remember the last Civil War didn't start because of slavery. It started because of succession.
All right.
Why did you secede? Why did those states secede? That's an important little detail. Why did they secede? Huh?
And just as a public service announcement for our listeners, the correct spelling for secede is SECEDE. So, just so you all know that now.
Aside.
Here's the thing that's fucked up, right? Is when people say shit like that, you are both lying and telling the truth at the same time. Because you're right. It did happen because of secession. Why did they secede, though? They pretend like that detail's not important.
Well, that's what they kind of.
I'm about to say the root.
That's what they kind of dress it up as. Well, it's states' rights. The right to do
how quickly
what?
That falls apart. All I have to do is what was the right they fought for?
Property.
Yeah, the right to have Ren here picking cotton.
Oh God, we're gonna get demonetized for sure for that one.
Absolutely.
But here's one thing I want to bring up, spelling aside and making fun of people who can't spell the fucking thing right. Here's the other thing that I wanted to just bring up, because I know people are toying around with this, and this has happened before. That because there's an election that didn't go their fucking way, that Texas will just start seceding from the Union. This has happened constantly. In fact, so many times that during his heyday on MSNBC, and Keith Olbermann ended up dedicating a segment as to what would happen should the United States just say, okay, Texas, we'll let you play your little games. You can be your own independent nation now. And it's going to be basically they're going to have to develop like their to a degree
What
they're
was
going to
it
have
they
to
said? As long as Texas didn't suffer a military attack, it probably could sustain itself on its own.
not
Yeah.
very much because this is going to be costly. They're going to need their own government system in
Well,
place.
for one, they no longer have the benefit of free arbitration between the states, which is the primary benefit of the union. Now they actually have to contact like the governor of California.
Yeah,
or
they would
whatever
have
state
to.
wanna
They would
trade
have
with.
to like go into a proper trade deal if they wanted to send any commerce in or out of their borders.
And at any given point, that means now they have to like actively negotiate with the leaders of that state, which are ever fluctuating because of our democracy.
Yeah.
At some point or another, they're going to get somebody in that position of power that don't really like the fact they seceded. And then all of a sudden, they can't trade with that particular state because governor said no.
Yeah. Or we might get someone might get elected to the president of the United States is like, you know what, fuck it, we're taking Texas back, and we take him back, and there's
not
not
only
much,
that,
there's
I
fuck
mean-
all they can do about that.
They basically had to deal with their own government. They're going to
Does that
have to
mean
throw
the
away
governor
their
of Texas would become the president of Texas? Like, what happens there?
Yeah, basically, that the governor of Texas would, in theory, be the Texas president.
Yeah.
So, all right, the one more parlor tech I'm going to do here before we go to the other account. This one comes. There's actually a lot of I think left-leaning trolls are starting to make accounts on Parlor to the point that a lot of the Parlor guys are becoming upset. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't you join Parlor because you believed in free speech? So this just comes from Brad, and this
no,
one.
They joined Parlor because Twitter wouldn't let them say whatever they wanted, and they were getting kicked off Twitter.
Yeah, now they find that. Oh wait, this means that that applies to everyone else. Oops.
Yeah. The
So-
thing is that
Anyway, so this comes from Brad.
oh boy.
And Brad says, something that's glaringly apparent as the night wears on is the Proud Boys are just not very healthy. I mean, most of them are actually obese. There might be a handful who could do 50 push-ups, but that's it. I don't think they understand that there are lots and lots of people who are in much better shape than they are.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. It's kind of true. Remember a few months ago when your governor was being threatened by a bunch of these crazies?
Yeah, who decided to stake out her summer house in a PT Cruiser. That's like one of the many, many problems with
And
their plan
I
there.
noticed that in the video that was posted to the public. They're also
Yep.
not that very fit.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
It's as if they're
No,
just...
no. Like if they're not fat, they're still bulky. Now, bulky's not unhealthy.
Yeah, but it just gives off the impression that all you're going to do is
but
just
when it
talk a lot of
comes-
shit, probably shoot your
Yeah.
gun, and just...
When it came to seeing the Proud Boys, I never saw a bodybuilder in there.
No, like you guys remember the show we did back during the protest? Do you remember the Meal Team 6 show that we did with the guys
Yes.
bringing the fucking rocket launcher to Subway?
I will make a point because people did try to call the Proud Boys racist. That one's up for debate, but it is definitely chauvinist.
Yeah, and by the way, the guy that leads the Proud Boys actually was at the White House this week during the rally, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be the leader because apparently they want him gone because he's not chauvinist or Nazi or fascist or whatever enough for their liking anymore. So
I
I thought it
Interesting
would be
that-
because
don't
they...
actually know if the Proud Boys did anything that was Nazi per se. I don't know.
well, I think that's the reason they want him gone because I think now they want to become real
They
Nazis.
want to be Nazis.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so all right, so I lied. One more parlor take here. One more parlor take. This one comes from a guy whose username or whatever just boycott. He says, SCOTUS has been compromised. Amy Coney Barrett has been paid off by Hunter Biden and the Chinese Communist Party.
The fuck?
That's it. That's the parlay. That's it. That's their rationale for why they told them to get the fuck out with that lawsuit.
Hey, what the fuck happened to Brett Kavanaugh?
I guess he
y'all
just
was-
got drunk again.
Y'all was up in arms when they did not want him in the Supreme Court, and I was actually right there with you because I did not know if Christine Blasey Ford had enough to substantiate that he'd actually done anything. Because here's the thing, right? It wasn't just the fact, and I chastised fucking Scarlett for this too, saying, "Oh well, somehow Christine Blasey Ford is her own professional." or
psychiatrist,
her own professional psychiatrist / witness. Like, but that's a conflict of interest. Like, if Christine Blasey Ford says it, and then she's the one psychologically evaluating herself, that's an inherent bias that would create a conflict of interest. It's like if a man decided to be his own lawyer. He could do it, but a judge is just going, "What the fuck?"
I could see it right now. It's like, all right, my client, me.
Yeah, I mean, you are legally allowed to represent yourself in a court of law, but it's generally not a good sign if you do.
That's like a last resort.
My client, me, did not murder those 50 children.
I investigated this case about myself and handled all the evidence.
It'll be just like that one scene from this one fucking
It's just
film.
like a really gruesome murder case, and this guy's representing himself.
You know why they say it's not the best idea to go into a court representing yourself? Because you will not be allowed to handle the evidence as the primary suspect.
And you might wind up incriminating yourself by slipping.
Well, actually, that's not true, Gonzo, because you can't incriminate yourself. That's actually part of the double jeopardy clause in the Constitution, which is you can't incriminate yourself. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of due process.
But you can make yourself look like a jackass in the court.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
You
Lawyer
can
does try to prevent you from doing.
Yeah, you can make the jury go, this is probably not an upstanding citizen here.
The judge will outright say, yeah, you've got the right to represent yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the other Twitter account now. This is the Coping MAGA Twitter account. This is a tweet from @WarrenBalog88. Some kind of circular logic here. Is the Republican Party rotten because it betrayed Trump, or are both Trump and the GOP rotten because they've betrayed white America? Does white America exist to defend Trump, or was Trump given trust and responsibility to defend white America? I swear to God, Charlie Kirk did not tweet that.
Bold of you to assume white America is Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. White America?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's an Eminem song, come to think of it. The fuck?
Yeah.
It's actually a really good song, too.
It is, I know.
Okay. You guys are white America. I want to hear your stance on this.
I fucking want to know what the other Americas are. Is there... How many Americas can we split this up into?
Listen, I am a representative of Black America.
Oh yeah, absolute racist statement. By the way, I do just want to say we do accept the left-wing ideal that we are absolutely free from being the collective representatives of our entire racial statute. That's a fantastic idea. Love that. Don't want to be a representative for all white people, and I don't think Ren wants to be a representative for all black people.
Yeah, because I'm not all black people.
Well, for
Jesus
one,
Christ.
that's a huge fucking burden, too. You have to be like a fucking saint in order to do that.
It's already bad enough. You have to be a saint here on the internet, otherwise you'll just one mistake and your fucking career will be gone.
You are the single sole representative for like 42 million people. Could you imagine that? That is
I'd have panic attacks.
heavy fucking pressure.
I'm about to say if Ren was put into that role, then we would assume that all black people are weeps.
There are a lot of black weebs around.
Speaking Japanese.
Okay, I am a weeb, but being a weeb doesn't preclude being able to speak Japanese.
Yeah, that's fair. That's just you are very well educated, bilingual with the Japanese language.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's another.
We would also assume most black people are half Filipino, which
that's not quite
right. He's
right.
going to double for Black America and the Filipino population.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, well, the Filipino American population doesn't want me either. I'm far from. If
Far from
anything,
being
if
Filipino, yeah.
anything, I'm seen more like a white person in terms of how I am.
I will say this, Ren. In regards to racial categorization when debating white supremacists, you are the primary subject that's brought up because we don't know where mixed race children would fall in that category.
Yes, where would mixed race children fall?
Good luck finding a pure white guy.
There was a white man that was tried for perjuring himself for marrying his white wife during Jim Crow because the state argued he was a greater majority black even though he had white skin.
What?
Which, as you knew, at the time, miscegenation was illegal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So they tried a white guy trying to say he was a black man.
Yeah.
Jesus.
All right,
because
so
his
moving
father
on.
was
So
black.
this next one comes from, I think this is, I don't know if this is Reddit or the website that the Donald is now hosting itself on. This comes from user do not click Jim. What do we do when they continue to try to have these cases tried before a court, but they refuse to hear them by continuing to dismiss them? What do we do if we have all the evidence under any other situation would lead to immediate arrest, but the FBI, DOJ, and media refuse to acknowledge it? It seems we need to have a local court uphold the law to have something to move forward on. Otherwise, it just looks like a coup. And by the way, he spelled coup C-O-U-P-E, as in a car.
Remember, no one thinks it's bizarre that this many offices, areas, and sects of the United States, different divisions focused on different things, focused on arbitrating different things, deciding different things, are all collectively against them. Nobody thinks that's weird. Like, nobody thinks, it is quite bizarre that all these people are against us. Could it possibly be that we're wrong about something?
Maybe.
Oh God, this sounds so similar to what we ended up.
How about when you advocated for like decisions to be made by your SCOTUS because you thought it was majority Republican, and then your SCOTUS does make a call and you're not happy with that call?
I thought we had this fucking conversation a few days ago in the Sharp Wing Legion.
Well, we did the stare decisis. Yeah, we brought that up.
Yeah,
that doesn't decide anything when it comes to political bias and standards of enforcing law, which we don't even know if it exists. I definitely think bias in favor of Jim Crow existed at a time in the United States courts, but I'm not sure if that was necessarily political or racially driven.
All right,
I'm thinking racially driven because racism was legal in law at that time.
Conversation was also about saying that every court should be suspicious for rejecting this shit. So yeah.
All right, so now Now we have something from Paul on 4chan. This is a Canadian Anon poster who posted, "I deleted my ACB FAP folder. Never again."
Your what?
This guy apparently had a FAP folder at Amy Coney Barrett.
What? Excuse me?
Remember, these are...
Does she apparently had an OnlyFans? What?
These are the intellectual people that have uncovered the conspiracy.
Yeah. And now to go back to, I believe this is our Donald. This is the Donald. I mentioned this before, but username Viva Discordia posts, "I'd rather be apart and free than united under tyranny." The Washington Bro replies, "Such as a confederacy?" Quiet Spark replies, "It's almost like the Confederates were right to fear what the U.S. was becoming." The gay deceiver replies, "An authoritarian regime willing to kill its own countrymen to retain their tax revenue." And Mage Gills replies, "You're talking Honest Abe in the North, right? Because that's literally what they did." So
Okay. Listen here.
What? The North
I swear,
people for tax evasion?
I swear.
Is that why we went to the Civil War?
I swear, if these people start running the country, the United States will become balkanized, for God's sake.
That's what they want at this point, I think, so.
God!
They want to run so they can fucking...
What, they want the U.S. to be fucking balkanized? No! Jesus Christ! You guys know what balkanization is, right?
It should have become apparent to us a long time ago, but I do think quite a lot of us made a lot of mistakes, and we were enthralled with seeing what Pohl had to say about politics as though they were of any kind of sound mind. But it's becoming,
or intelligence.
But it's becoming more and more collectively apparent that the people that were constantly snide and sarcastic weren't smart. We just thought they were because they were so quick to refute things.
Mm-hmm.
And they said things that sounded plausible, and it didn't necessarily help that the original political opponents they had no tact. So in comparison, they look like idiots compared to 4chan.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the Donald, this one comes from Zero Delta Tango, who is responding to a quote that says, "No one is willing to kill fellow Americans." Zero says, "With all due respect, bullshit. I would be beyond ecstatic to serve my country by personally pulling the trigger on the cattle stun gun, the guillotine, whatever it is, for however many millions of communist American citizens have infected the U.S. Commies all need to die regardless of citizenship. If it's under 50 million, that'd be great, but I don't really care about the number as long as it's zero when I'm done. After 4 years of watching zero justice get done with only the president's associates going to jail, I'm dying to see justice served. Traitors, commies, and child traffickers need to die. If we don't make it happen, we will be the ones doing all the dying."
That shows how fucking sane and...
Yeah, someone might want to call the FBI on this one here. This is, that's...
All right, we shouldn't be surprised, because these are things that in the past had outright been said amongst my own group of people. Now, most of the time, I tried to expel those kinds of people, and did. But the words they said lingered. Because here's the problem, right? How are you going to get people to disagree with killing pedophiles? How are you going to get people to disagree with killing people that they are told and thought and believe want to hurt or kill them? That's where the radicalization begins, right? When you convince people that they are going to die, that they are going to be harmed, that horrible things are going to be done to them if you're not there to protect them, or if they're not there to take action in whatever means or manner possible. Yeah, instilling that kind of fear and hysteria into people over and over again over the course of years and years and years, and Pohl did an extremely good job at that. Yeah, these people aren't going to turn out well-rounded. They're going to turn out twisted. They're going to turn out crazy. They're going to turn out insane. They're going to turn out so damn paranoid that the things they're paranoid about cannot possibly be true.
Yes.
By the way,
go ahead.
This is just from the Boondocks, right? Where Huey Freeman talks about how the CIA is out to get black people. And his supposed imaginary friend, supposedly real secret CIA agent, flat out told him, now look who's not living in reality. Just because you're paranoid does not mean we're not out to get you.
Yes, even a paranoid has enemies. All right, so we got, and to kind of, it also means that they can't process things that are simple to everyone to understand. Like this Twitter post comes from @AnonPatriotQ, who tweeted out, "All three of President Trump's Supreme Court nominees rejected the Texas lawsuit. Think about that for a second. Does that comply with logic at all? I don't have all the answers, but there's clearly something else at play here. Let this marinate for a few days." Yeah, the thing at play is that the people making the lawsuit are complete idiots who don't have any legal ground to stand on. And that's what's at play.
And the people that Trump put in aren't necessarily going to be following Trump's every fucking order or trying to do everything Trump fucking believes.
Yeah, they probably assume that they would. Oops.
They would, but I doubt they want to do that. Otherwise, it might be political suicide.
Yeah. And the one last thing we're going to do here tonight, we're going to end this tonight. I feel it's appropriate because it will answer the question that Sharply posted earlier, which is, whatever happened to Brett Kavanaugh for these guys? Whatever happened to them? Katrina Von Hurricane posted on the Donald, "Kavanaugh's a rapist. ACB steals kids from Haiti through her evil Christian cult relations. At least they cried on TV."
All right, I will give this the benefit of the doubt. This could have just been a Republican that believed for a fact he did what he did to Christine Blasey Ford. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt and say this person always believed Kavanaugh was a rapist.
Or at least it becomes a rapist when he's strong enough.
Because we don't want to wind up doing the same thing these people do, which is judge a whole
Yeah.
group from the sentiments of one person.
But yeah,
Instead-
but that's the kind of
we've judged a whole group from the sentiments of 12 different people.
several different people, but that kind of tells you like what you asked, like whatever happened to Brett Kavanaugh. The same thing happened to Neil Gorsuch. Like after Gorsuch, I forget what the lawsuit was, but it was I think it might have been the Affordable Care Act lawsuit. But Gorsuch struck that down, and then they were like, well, Gorsuch, he was never one of ours, but don't worry, we got Kavanaugh and ACB, and now all three of them have dismissed this Texas lawsuit and have just said, yeah, we're not hearing your fucking bullshit on the election. So now it's like, well, Kavanaugh, he was always a rapist, and ACB, she steals kids. They were always evil. They were never with us. They betrayed us. It's like it's you know what this is? You know what this is? Donald Trump has become Tommy Wiseau at the end of the room.
I am being so incredibly fair with this whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. I want to say more than anything, oh, y'all motherfuckers defended Kavanaugh, and then you're just like turning on him now that he hasn't done what you want him to do. But I want to be fair and say that is just what these people we have looked at think.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe I'm right. Maybe they always thought Brett Kavanaugh was this way. Maybe they always thought these people that are... All right. These people that are doing what they're currently doing have always been this way. Like, benefit of the doubt, maybe they do think that. Maybe they have always thought that.
Maybe.
In which case, I can't really ask why hadn't they said it earlier, because for all I know, they've said it the whole time. We're not really on Parlor 24/7 to see everything these people have posted.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's hilarious how they're going up. They're bringing the Tommy Wiseau defense. No, everybody betrayed me. I'm fed up with this world. And I only mention that because I watched The Room last night with some friends. They decided to play a...
What's ironic is what happened to Tommy Wiseau's character really was tragic if you could take The Room seriously.
Yeah, honestly, it really was.
He was falsely accused, and everyone turned on him.
And then he killed himself.
Yeah.
I mean, so the funny thing is that, like, Tommy Wiseau's character is a blatant Marty Stew once you realize it. But the thing, I was explaining this to some friends, to my friends when they watched it last night. They decided to play a drinking game while watching The Room, and at least 3 people ended up passed out by the end of it. So I happen to know more about this movie than anyone probably has a right to know. And I always told people that, like, look, when it comes to the reason why Johnny's supposed to be like the only likable character in the movie, why he's such a Marty Stew, why everyone praises him, and so on and so forth. And if you want to know the reason why this movie even exists, it's the scene where... Just look at any scene where Johnny's playing football with the other guys. That is the whole reason that movie existed, because Tommy Wiseau, he's a very, very private man, and we don't really know anything about where he came from, how he got his literal bottomless pit of money. That's all unknown, but everyone agrees that from what we can guess, it wasn't a good origin story. He did not have a good life. And he didn't really have a lot of friends. And so those scenes are why this movie existed, because this is the one time where Tommy Wiseau could actually have friends.
Yeah, there are people that have, like, in The Disaster Artist, I think they, like, approach this kind of shit, too, because it's like, I think he had, there was, like, this kid, Greg, which...
Yeah, Greg Sestero, who played Mark.
Yeah, Greg Sestero, who played Mark, and it was, and he was a young kid. And I remember, this is just a joke, but the parents came up to the car and asked him, how old are you? Greg age. Like, he just wanted to say he was Greg's age. It's like,
yeah,
you're 15?
Those two are actually,
like,
those two are actually still good friends, and they work on stuff together, actually.
It was
Tommy and Greg.
Like, Tommy Wiseau is, like, too naive and innocent to be any kind of dangerous predator. He was just...
No, he's not.
In some degree, he functioned on the mental capacity of, like, an autistic 30-year-old. He really did. Like,
nice for you to call me out like that, asshole.
Hey, it's not your fault. You were born that way.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all once again for listening. I think I think next week's gonna be our last show of the year because I don't know about you guys, but like from like the week from my birthday to like January 1st or 2nd, I just like to kind of not do anything online because it's the holidays and it's kind of the time where I just take a break from all this stuff. We are gonna be looking at we're gonna have the Georgia runoff like literally the first week of 2021, so that'll be something to kind of look at there. When the hell is January 5th? Because we may or may not be able to go live for that, depending on when if it's on it's probably on a Tuesday. So yeah, it'll be on a Tuesday. We could, in theory, go live for it.
Now that being said, we did want to branch away from like the whole Trump series of things, and I'm not really sure what's left to talk about on the front of the United States current political front because
there's always gonna.
SCOTUS said no. Like, that was their last avenue.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be stuff to talk about in terms of... Yeah. I mean, Trump's at least, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with Trump for about another month or so.
Yeah,
but
in the case of Trump's era, like, what's he going to do in a month? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we just have... Tomorrow, the Electoral College votes, and that's going to be done and dusted once that comes out, unless something really, really bad happens, which I don't think it will.
And sadly, this chapter is not going to end the way anyone wanted it to. I'm sure a lot of people just thought at the end of it we'd hold hands and kumbaya, and maybe people would have a coming to Jesus and think that this current president was not the greatest president we ever had.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. It's like I said in the show in the Discord chat, is that the best case scenario is that we're going to go into this next administration with anywhere from like 50 to 70 million Americans thinking that Joe Biden is not a legitimate president. That's like the best case scenario.
Is on the other foot.
We should be grateful that the number of people that don't think Biden is a legitimate president at least is a minority as far as it looks like.
Yeah. But
it's a sizable minority.
Yeah, and so that's why the Georgia runoff is really important because that's going to determine, are we going to have like a true split in the Senate for the first time in forever, which means that the parties will have to actually work together if they want to get any shit done because there won't be enough. It means you won't be able to form a coalition from the right or the left. You'll have to actually cross party lines to get shit done. Or will the GOP hang on and then Mitch McConnell's going to have his 2 years of fuck around and then 22 comes around and yeah. And we know Trump is, and again, the hot rumor is that Inauguration Day, Donald Trump's going to spirit away to Mar-a-Lago, announce his candidacy for 2024, and spend the next 4 years playing president in exile. We won't have to deal with him then. We're not going to deal with him then because the less people talk about him after he is no longer president, the quicker that all this will probably die out.
Yeah, like the primary thing where the left could fuck up or where the media could fuck up is talking about him too much.
Yeah, seriously. We're not saying, censor the guy, but just saying you no longer have to talk about him once he's no longer the president.
You have no obligation. He's no longer a must-run.
Yeah.
So
he's not going to be a must-run here. We'll have better things to do with our time. I'm sure the Biden administration will give us plenty there, as well as the ongoing effort to vaccinate COVID. But and we will, of course, at some point in time, start with the political video game streams. I can tell you right now, if you're wondering when we're going to get around to Cyberpunk, the answer is going to be when they optimize this fucking game. Hopefully that will be sooner rather than later. I mean, I honestly have had a pretty smooth experience so far. Like, I haven't really had any, like, the bugs that I've seen are bugs that can be fixed. But all I can tell you is that my rig should be able to easily run this on max specs, and it does easily run on max specs, but I can only average like 45 frames per second right now, no matter what I do. So hopefully they get that patched up and fixed up in time for the new year, and we'll go from there. But we're all the same. We're probably gonna start with Deus Ex because it's a much easier game, I think, to kind of exemplify. Anyway,
you do let me know when you want to do the little. When you wanted to do the little react to the coping GOP thing.
Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, I will, because like I said, it's not only is that going to be a comedy goldmine, but it gives you a really, like you saw a bit, kind of a taste of it tonight with the tweets and parlays that we read, but it gives you a pretty good insight into what these people are thinking. So yeah, that'll be something interesting to look at. Anyway, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you all once again so much for listening. As always, I'm Helios. They are Sharp, Gonzo, and Ren. And stay positive, test negative, Take care, and we will see you all next week.
Next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.